The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised.
Oh man, there's got to be something to listen to on this dial.
This message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere. It is speculated that these objects are of extraterrestrial origin. The broadcast will quiet at this time for your safety.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays, as we light the void with Joe Root on Spaced Out Radio.
Told all the lies to myself while sleepwalking through it all.
You can follow Joe on Twitter at Lighting the Void, on Facebook at Lighting the Void, and you can call into tonight's show at 501-777-5631. You can also follow Joe at spacedoutradio.com.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as done.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Why don't you talk into the microphone? I got a backup mic right here. Check 1, 2. Testing, testing. Yeah, they both working, and guess what? They don't like no feedback. What's up?
Now, let's fire the show up and light the void on Spaced Out Saturdays with your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from the Forest Tower Studios in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Spaced Out Saturday tonight. I am your humble host and master of ceremonies. It's good to have you with us. Great to be here with you on this lovely, cool, and mild Saturday, March the 24th on into the 25th. Great night for sky watching. Thank you all for joining us wherever you're listening from across the web or on our lovely affiliates. Speaking of those affiliates, let's welcome them in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are also live as well on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, and my home, The Fringe FM. And we rock out every night with Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of Spaced Out Radio. You can also check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can follow me on Twitter at Lighting the Void as well. Subscribe to our new YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the USA. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes, and of course, the website is spacedoutradio.com. And if you go to patreon.com, for as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radio. And if you want to take part in the show, sign into one of our chat rooms on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're in Twitter, just go to hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I'll get to all your questions in there as soon as possible. And as well, the call-in number, if you want to call in tonight, is 501-777-5631. That's 501-777-5631. Also, if you head over to the website, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. And as of right now, you can pick up, you can go to the Spaced Out Radio store and pick up a t-shirt, poster, or a sticker. We also have the Encounter online that deals with everything paranormal. You can check out the latest blog post there as well. And if you've had an experience you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV also have some great video viewing there as well. I also want to mention that Dave is at the UFO Con in San Francisco right now, and he's been posting on Facebook, and it looks like he's having a lot of fun. I got to host the show last night with Thomas Seawood. That guy was a character. I want to tell him thank you very much for allowing me to do that, and thank you all for hanging in there with us and allowing me to host that as well. Now, tonight, we're going to continue down the road of discovery in our Aliens Among Us series. This would be our 7th episode down this path. Tonight, UFO hunter and researcher Jeff Willis joins us. Jeff Willis has been researching UFOs and related phenomena for over 25 years. His initial interest in aliens didn't start with a simple UFO sighting, though. He has been having sightings of UFOs and other odd experiences since 1975. And in 1987, at the age of 17, he moved to Phoenix from Seattle with his family, and skywatching became his full-time activity after getting his video camera in 1995. He has been able to get about 250 hours of solid UFO video. Jeff Willis was one of the co-creators of UFO Road Trip. It became the History Channel's UFO Hunters TV show, and his footage has been featured in many programs, including the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Disney's Race to Witch Mountain, and Dan Aykroyd's Unplugged on UFOs, and many more. His website is ufosoverphoenix.com. Jeff Willis, thanks for coming to Spaced Out Saturday, man. It's a real honor.
Hey, Joe. Good to be here.
So what got you, so tell me the story, because it's kind of, that introduction is a little bit brief about what got you into UFOs.
Well, it was an unexplained experience I had when I was a child. When I was about 6 years old, I was lying in bed in my room, and I felt something like hold my hand, which I can only describe as like it felt like another hand of a person or of something that had a hand, obviously, but it was like dark, really late at night after I had went to bed, and I wasn't asleep yet. I was just trying to get to sleep, and all of a sudden I felt it, like grab my hand. And so at first I was kind of like the first instinct I had was like I felt love and peace and, everything was good. But then like fear set in because I was like, well, what is that? I don't understand it, because at first I thought, well, maybe, your mind tries to rationalize it. And so, like, at first I thought, well, maybe my mom came in the room, or maybe my sister came in and was, like, seeing if I'm okay or whatever. I don't know. And so then as soon as, like, my brain kind of randomly explained it to itself that, why would they do that? That doesn't make sense or whatever. So I got scared. And so I reached as fast as I could because there was a light switch right there on the nightstand right next to the bed, only like a couple inches away. So I reached with my other hand. As fast as I could. I thought, well, on the count of 5, I'm going to reach real fast because I could still feel it in my hand.
Wow.
And so I reached it real quick and turned on the switch, and as soon as I did, there was nothing there. There was nothing there. Like the pressure released off of my hand the second I hit it. The switch. So like at 6 years old or whenever that was, it was probably like 1976. So I would have to say I was about 6 years old around there. I mean, it could have happened as late as 77, but not later than 77. So it was between 6 and 7 years old. And so, but when in 1975 though, when I was in kindergarten, about a year or so before this happened, so this must have happened when I was in the 2nd grade, but in kindergarten, we had a tour in kindergarten of the elementary school, because it's your first day of kindergarten. And I don't know how many people out there, that are adults can actually remember their first day of kindergarten, but I can because it changed my life. Like, when I went to the first day, they took us on a tour of the school. And the first place they went is the library. And I'm walking through these books, looking at all these books, and they said, well, you can pick a couple of books to take home, to check out for the first day of school. Right. And you can learn, and so your parents can learn, you can, like, read with your parents, and they can help you learn how to read. And so I immediately saw the UFO books. They popped out, like, right at me. When out of have a library of probably like thousands of books. Like these books, as walking up and down the shelves, those popped right out, and I was, you know, I saw like the icon of the flying saucer on one of the books, and I picked it out, and I was like immediately like fascinated and drawn to it, because in my mind, even before even grade school, you're pretty much taught that you're like, you know, alone in the universe, and you have like astronauts that have gone to the moon, and you're pretty much, you know, we're pretty much, you know, not very advanced, you know.
Right.
So to see this like spaceship on this book, and to go through this book, and to see like pictures and photographs of like, you know, flying saucers that people took, like Billy Meyer and like George Adamski, all these black and white and colored photos, you know. Now some of these people, they later down the road, they could have discovered that these pictures were fake, or that these people were not, you know, telling the truth or whatever. But I don't, you know, the jury's still out on it. You know, there's still a lot of people that lean one way, and then there's the other people that lean the other way on all those photographs and UFO photos from that time period, you know. But I knew, you know, if there's somebody that can take a picture of a flying saucer, and it, you know, they claim that it was real, and you know, you're taught as a kid to believe someone unless they're, you know, telling a fib or whatever.
Right.
So I immediately thought, well, hey, there's something to this, because there's a lot of books and a lot of people that tape or, you know, take pictures of these things, so they must be real, you know. And I saw the evidence of, you know, the books and the stories, you know. So at that point, I knew I was on to something, you know. But I checked out a couple books, and I took them home, and my parents were like, "What the heck is this?" You know.
Sure.
So it was like one of those things. But I brought home, you know, I was fascinated in the whole subject of paranormal, I guess, because not only with the UFO books, I brought home a book on ghosts and Loch Ness Monster at the same time too. So there was something about the whole you know, the whole scenario of different like subjects that are unexplained that kind of drew me to it. I don't know why. I just did, you know.
Do you think that it was your destiny, though, that you kind of landed in Phoenix? Because that's the hot spot, man. I mean, come on, that is the hot spot of UFOs.
Yeah, well, let me tell you a story. It's the weirdest thing, because, like, you know, I was having all these experiences in Seattle, where I grew up, in a town that's called Bellevue, which is only a couple miles outside Seattle. It's like the suburb of Seattle. And so I grew up in Bellevue and went to even high school out in Bellevue in Seattle area. And then when I moved out here in like the 12th grade. So I had to finish high school here in where I am, Phoenix, which I'm in a suburb just like how I was out there. I'm in Glendale out here, which is a suburb to Phoenix. And so it's kind of like the same thing, you know. And so the weird thing about it, though, is like I had all these like experiences with like UFOs in Seattle, and then when I moved, you know, when I moved into pretty much like my teen years in Seattle, or I didn't really have any experiences from probably like 13 to like 16 or 17. I don't think I really had very many experiences, because I had a lot of weird experiences throughout my like younger life. A lot of weird, like in this house, there was like a lot of poltergeist type of activity, and like my friends said that they saw a shadow of it in the window when they came up to the door, and there was no one there upstairs where they said they saw something. So there was all sorts of weird stuff, and I also heard like the swing in my backyard swinging. There was like a creaking noise, and you can't make that noise unless somebody sits in it and swings back and forth. And we heard this going at like 3 a.m, and we were like too afraid to look out the window. That's how scary it was to see what it was, you know.
The classic swing moving in the horror movie sound. Yeah, I can hear it right now.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So we grew, you know, after that initial contact that I had when I was, you know, 6 or 7. After that, it just like snowballed into different type of experiences, like one after another, but they were like spread out, like in that same, maybe within that same 3-year period of that happening. One time when I was in my room, I seen like light come in through the window from outside the window, and it filled up the entire room. And this was like really like late at night, like 1 or 2 in the morning, and there's the window faces woods, and there's a bunch of trees, and there's no road back there. So for something to come in like that, and that it's impossible, because it was on the second floor too, where we lived. And also I had memories of like spinning, like my whole body like spinning around in a circle, coming down from the sky into my bed.
Oh, dude, that's astral. Yeah, you were astral traveling, man, for real.
Yeah, it was weird, because I had I didn't know whether it was. See, you're the first one that ever said that it was astral travel, because because I always linked it to maybe I was abducted by aliens, or maybe even spirit, your astral body was abducted by aliens or something. I don't know, because I've heard those stories too. But
it could be both, Jeff. Because the thing is when I got into astral travel, I started learning that when I was a kid, I used to have this feeling of flying out of control, or like you say, spinning, or something slinging me around like a roller coaster while I was sleeping. And so I learned. Yeah, and that's just. I learned that was we were having out-of-body experiences as a child. Now, whether you were abducted or not, I can't say, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I had a reoccurring dream, and I don't know, it didn't seem like it was a dream, so I just want to say it was a reoccurring event when I was sleeping, where, I would picture myself, in my mind, or I was physically doing it. I don't know, one or the other, because this is how it happened. All of a sudden, I would be aware that I was, flying through the sky, and I can see, all these building lights and all these down, all these lights down below, like city and houses, I'm flying over, pretty high. Mm-hmm. And then I'm flying at a pretty good speed, mile an hour. And then all of a sudden I start to slow down. And then I get slower and slower and slower. And then I get scared and afraid that I'm going to start falling straight down, because I'm getting to the point where I'm going to stop. I'm thinking, what's going to happen when I stop? Am I going to fall? And then all of a sudden I do. I start falling. And then the next thing I know, I get that spinning sensation, like I'm coming into the ceiling and spinning, around and around and around until I get to my bed,
wow.
Down to the ceiling. Yeah, and I can even see, going through the roof, down through the roof, passing through the floors and stuff. It's weird. And that happened only 3 or 4 times. This happened between 77 to maybe 70, I'd say 76 to 78 tops, that 3 times within that time period. So it was right in that other time period where they were in my room, or something was in my room. But when I was at that age, my parents took me to church too, and so I also had in the back of my mind that it could be angels, or it could be Jesus even. So I had that in my, in the back of my head, what is it? All these, there's all sorts of questions you want to ask yourself, could it be this? Could it be that? Because we don't know, what it is. So.
Right. Yeah. So those things. So you had a lot of the same kind of experiences I had when you were younger, growing up, and this led you to studying ufology, which I find fascinating. So last night, I spoke to Rich Giordano, which is a good friend of mine and a show host of the Paranormal Code, and we were talking about things. And I said, you know what? My guest bailed on me tomorrow night. I really need a great guest. And he said, dude, you need to talk to Jeff Willis. And I was like, yeah, because I've heard you on his show before too, and I heard you on Late Night in the Midlands and some other shows. And I was like, oh, you think he'd come on this short of notice? And he was like, well, I'll see. And I went to your website, UFOs Over Phoenix, and it's just this is the kind of thing that excites me, because we, as in this field, we go to YouTube and we see all this CGI stuff and we can't tell what's real and what's not. But when you look at videos like yours, or like Rich's or Tim Doyle's. You guys are the kind of guys that you got tons of really awesome footage, and you're just studying it. You're not claiming to know, hey, that's an alien or anything. It's just you're trying to capture every odd thing in the sky, and that's the good stuff, in my opinion.
Right, and that's where the Phoenix thing comes in, because basically when I was in junior high school in Seattle, I got a 35 millimeter camera, and I went to a photography class in junior high, and it was like my last 2 years in junior high. I had the camera with me all the time, the 35 millimeter, because in my mind I was still trying to catch a UFO, because when I was about 12 years old, I saw it, and my first UFO ever at about 12, and it was a real close sighting. It was a daylight sighting, and it was not that far away, and it looked like basically the shape, and it looked like a water tower, one of those old water towers from like New York City or something like that, like kind of like a cone-shaped object with like an oval bottom, and it was rocking it like back and forth, and it was like at least, I'd say, half a mile away, and it wasn't that high. It was like flying over some houses. And I thought, well, after I saw that, I was like, well, after that, I need to get a camera. And so at that point, I asked, for a camera for Christmas, and I got one. And so for the next 2 years, I had this 35 millimeter camera with me, and I learned at school, I took the classes how to develop my own 35 millimeter film, how to, get the negative and make photos with it, with, the old photo paper. This was all in the mid 80s. I was doing this, 86 or so, 87, or 86. And then I went into high school in 87. I took photo class in high school. And so then when we moved out here to Phoenix, video cameras came into play, because, the 90s, the early 90s started hitting, and video cameras started to become, a big thing. Everybody started to get them. So I got one, and I was still doing the UFO thing, and I learned about some people that brought me to be able to videotape UFOs. Because, see, it all starts with your, who you want to, believe, like the evidence that's out there. Who do you, what do you believe? What drives you to do what you do? So this is how this pretty much started for me, was in about 1990. I started collecting UFO books again, and reading every book on the subject. Like from 1991 to probably like 1993, I started to rediscover the mysteries of my earlier youth life, where I had a lot of unexplained things happen. And we can talk a little bit more about those other unexplained things later too. But what happened with the videotape thing, videotaping UFOs, is I just started buying all these books and reading about UFOs and trying to discover what it was. Again, to try to, solve the mystery. I already knew that the mystery was not solved, could never be solved. So I buy like hundreds of books and magazines, and I fill up like bookshelves in my office of books, hundreds of the way the literature of ufology is tremendous, and it's amazing, and like anybody that ever studies UFOs, you'll never buy or be able to obtain all of the literature on the subject. If you had all the money in the world, you can keep filling up warehouses full of material. So I got to the point where none of this stuff is really doing it for me. I have to go out and find the truth for myself. I have to go videotape this thing. Right. Find it.
Awesome.
And so, right. So about 1990. I'd say it was about 1995 or 1996. I'm watching Sightings. Remember the old TV show Sightings?
Yeah.
With Tim White?
Yep.
Yeah. It was on Fox TV, and then they moved it to the Sci-Fi Network. Well, they did a show, this was like in 1995, about a guy named John Bro Wilkie that lived in California that can film a UFO any time of the day.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and so I saw that, and I was like, well, that's what I got to do. I got to do exactly what that guy does. I got to do, like, I took the episode and I did exactly what he said to do. And I took the camera, and a lot of people don't like this kind of ufology, but you learn to capture a couple good sightings with it, and then you can move forward with it by doing it a different way. So basically, he described something which he called the solar technique, where you block out the sun with like the building, like your house, and then you kind of look into the glowing part of the sun, the corona type, part, to reflect any type of objects that's up there that could be flying around. Okay, and so what his technique was, since he called it the technique, is you zoom into anything up there that's flying around that catches your eye, that reflects the sun, and sure enough, he was getting a lot of UFO footage and a lot of videos and a lot of television, local TV news, and now national, like, sightings, was over at his house, and Sightings did the report, and they even captured UFOs with their own Sightings cameras, television cameras, so it led a lot of credibility to it. And then a couple months later, I used to collect UFO magazines, and I bought this one publication by Timothy Beckley, the UFO magazine, like on, some magazine, and it had John Bro Wilkie in it, and it had some of his still shots of his UFOs. So at this point, I just did what he did, and I got stuff on video, and in 1997, or 1995 through 1997, I was able to capture all sorts of solar technique footage. And so, boiling it down, the solar technique footage, you can shoot a ton of different footage with solar technique, but the only problem with it is probably like 99% of it's not UFOs. That's the only thing, because a lot of stuff turns out to be cotton or bugs or whatever. But the trick of it is you have to zoom to infinity, to where your camera can only be focused on stuff way up there. So anything flying way up there, it's the possibility of it being an insect or cotton, it's lower than, shooting, closer. So you always have to be zoomed away as far as possible out. Now, a lot of stuff flies by so fast, which is probably insects. A lot of people back in the 90s were catching this on video and calling it rods and like fast-moving UFOs, and then you freeze it, and it's probably just an insect. But there are like legitimate, like after a while of shooting footage, you're going to get the real thing. And the real thing is objects that are high altitude, circular in shape, that are white, black, different, different types of structures, but they're moving at high speed and they're up there. And you could tell with your own eye and with the camera and with the video looking back that there's no possible way whatsoever. It could have been a bird, plane, helicopter, insect, bug. It doesn't fit into any of the categories at all. And the only thing left is a UFO or unidentified flying object. And like you said before, we're not claiming any of them are alien. It could be government. It could be like a secret government thing, or they could be, I've talked to a lot of researchers that one or two of them think that the UFO is the alien in itself, that's the alien, it's not, there's nothing inside, that it's like a sky creature or something.
Right. Well, there's been people that have, I believe, astronauts and other people that said that they've actually flown these things and they fly them with their mind and stuff like that. Of course, we have no proof other than what they say about it. But I've always wondered how you guys, because I've watched your video and I'm like, how in the hell are they capturing that thing way, way up there? It's so small, like you wouldn't see it with the naked eye. Most people would miss it, but you guys are grabbing those things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You see this sometimes in the video. You see this white dot, and it's like filling up like the middle portion of the video, like maybe it's not too big, but then all of a sudden you'll see us zoom back, and you'll see that thing's way up there, and you'll see that, like, when we zoom back, you'll see all these buildings come back and all this stuff, like, holy crap, that thing's way out there. So that's the trick, is is you need zoom power. You need like I have a lens that's like a 50 power lens, and it adds like 50 power optical to any type of camera. So that's a good tool to have. But like you said, yeah, these objects are way up there, or some of them. That's what you always try to get is the close ones.
What about at night though, Jeff? I mean, because some of the stuff I've seen on Tim Doyle's footage have been like this kind of dull, orangish looking orb stuff. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, I got a lot of those, but this is the thing what's weird, and like it goes through different periods and different flaps. Like for a while, I'll get only day footage for a while, and then I won't get any day footage, and then I'll start getting night videos. Like all of a sudden these like glowing orbs, or these golden orbs, or these red, what we used to call Bubba. We named it from the Gulf Breeze sightings. There was this red UFO that always used to show up in Pensacola and Gulf Breeze, Florida, and it came so many times that they nicknamed it Bubba, and the news got video of it, and Hard Copy went down there and got video of it.
Hard
it was
Copy.
A big flap, and
I remember Hard Copy. That was cool.
Yeah, it was a big UFO flap down there. And so, like, when we started getting into red light UFO, we remembered all those news reports on the Bubba footage, and we just said, hey, it's Bubba. Now it's in, Arizona. And so there was a period of time between, like, 1999 to 2002 where this red light flap happened up here, and it's a town outside of Phoenix called Gilbert, Chandler, and Tempe area. You would see this red dot just show up out of nowhere, and sometimes two of them would show up. And so it even got on the local news for a while, but we kind of tracked it for a while, and we nicknamed it Bubba, and we ended up getting on TV a couple times from shooting video of it. And then it's like you said, it's weird because this has happened recently to me, because I was shooting some daylight footage in 2017 or 2016, and then in 2017 I couldn't see any more daylight UFOs. I started filming these night UFOs, these orbs, and these night flyers. I got a couple of them on my website. If you go to ufosoverphoenix.com, on the homepage, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see like little boxes where you'll see like, some of my footage. And if you just look for some of the most recent stuff, like from last year or 2016 and 2017 as well, there's a couple clips there. But I haven't really shot much this last year. I've been looking, but I haven't really been seeing anything. And for night video, the best camera that I have right now for night footage is one of my older Sony cameras, because it has night shot on it. So you need the 8mm tapes for those.
Is it the old school cameras? Because that's what Rich Giordano told me. The high old school cameras are the best.
Yeah, it's weird because you know how advanced our technology is since 1997. Well, for some reason, my camera that I had in 1997. And 1996, the one I got, the night shot camera works better than any of these newer ones. Like the night shot was better back then. And so,
so you got to get on like eBay or some other weird place to get. You can't. I mean, maybe they have them on Amazon, but they don't. You can't get them retail anymore, right?
I'm not sure. You can probably get like a new camera would, if you go straight for like something that is good for night filming. I'm not sure, or night taping. I don't know. I don't know what there's to offer, but I do know that this old school camera I got from 1996 works like a charm with its night shot feature, and it's really great. I mean, and I don't mind having to buy those 8mm tapes at all. They're at Walmart. You can go over there and get them. They're like $40 for a 2-pack when it used to be only $7 for 2 of them. But, that's the deal with skywatching. It's kind of it can be expensive at times, but, you could, like with the website and with the filming, you have to keep up with, getting tapes and, paying for hosting. Website stuff.
Because videos take up a lot of bandwidth. They do. They take up a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah, and that's the only downside of this research is like, the way I present it now is it's something that just you have to do nowadays because everybody has a website to present what they have, right? So
Sure.
everybody has to do it. But back in the day, when I first got, my very first website was in 1998, to be honest. I mean, right after I videotaped some of my solar footage, some of the best ones. That's what I was going to get at before, is I took, like, out of hundreds of sightings from just the solar stuff, I took maybe, like, the best, like, 10 of them and said, well, we can call these safely. You can call these ones UFOs, but just forget about the rest of them.
Right.
We're not even going to put those online or anything. So I have, like, a bunch of VHS tapes full of solar stuff, and some of it could be UFOs, some of it couldn't, but we just took the best ones that we know are UFOs, and we put them on our website in 1997, and that was my first website. And that one was just called Jeff Willis's Page of UFO Videos. And then I progressed to this other, in 2000, the year 2000, I progressed to a site which was a free GeoCities site, and it was called Alien Hunter UFOs over Phoenix. And then that one, I don't know if you remember the GeoCities sites, but they stopped making them. So we had to flat out just buy a domain name, and that's when in 2003 I bought UFOsoverPhoenix.com, because I already had a DVD that I had made called UFOs Over Phoenix. And that's what we do, and that's what I basically do, is you shoot UFO video over Phoenix. And so it just came natural. That's what the site is. So I
Can we still get that DVD today, though, Jeff, if we want?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, too. I have some DVDs on my website where I got a special on there, which is a 3-pack, where for the price of just buying one DVD, which is $19 or whatever, you can get all 3 of them for that now, because I got a DVD 3-pack on there, because they used to be like $20 each. And so what I did was I thought, well, why? DVDs are a lot less money nowadays than they were like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And my last, and I have 3 UFOs over Phoenix movies, because that's how much footage I accumulated over, all the years. I could make a new one even, but it goes up to UFOs over Phoenix Volume 3. So I thought, well, let's just put all of them together for one, And so I got that on there. Or if you already have a couple of the other ones and you don't have one, then we have them individually, too. You can buy them individually if you want. But that's how I pay for my web hosting, my bandwidth, my videotapes, or, my all of my skywatching stuff I get through, people that buy DVDs or send a donation. And with the donation, I usually will send them like something free, like a free DVD, or anyways, or I have like a light, like little alien lights and stuff, just so I can send people if they donate. You have to. It's nice to send someone something if they give a couple bucks. That's always what I thought in it. But I have a couple other websites too, because I haven't, it's not only about UFOs over Phoenix. That's what I do, is UFOs over Phoenix. Anything that I videotape, it's going to be on UFOs over Phoenix. But I also have another website I put some stuff that I shoot on, but it's more based for UFOs for around the world. And I have a page on UFOs over Phoenix called UFOs Around the World, which features some, different footage from around the world. But I have a website called UFOfootage.net, which is my other website, which I put other people's stuff on.
So you put a conglomerate of not just your videos, but other people's videos that you think are interesting or legit enough on that page. Okay.
Yeah, and I also got some news stories on there, as well as some like YouTube videos and from other people's, stuff. So
what was it though, Jeff? I mean, I'm just as you're telling me all this stuff, there had to have been something, okay, that when you started this venture, there had to have been that one time, like your first capture of a UFO that got you really excited, that you knew this was a UFO and I got it on film. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that moment exactly. When I first started filming the solar technique, there was some people that, that I was learning from that said, hey, we've been through this, and what you really got to do is you got to point your camera away from the sun, like turn your back on the solar technique. Don't tape any more UFOs that way, because now that you can do it, you can look anywhere and tape a UFO. And so I listened to that person. I did exactly what they said. I turned my back on the sun, and sure enough, a white dot appeared in the distance over this palm tree. And I got the camera, I zoomed into it, and it was amazing. It was like a white, like pill-shaped object, and it couldn't have been bigger than maybe a couple cars put together. It wasn't that big, but at the same time, it wasn't that small either. And it just hovered, and then it did these weird moves. It would go like left real fast, and then right real fast. And I zoomed in, and I had it on the tripod, and it was doing these things. And I called it I called it the 15-minute sighting, because it was the only video that I had a UFO for 15 minutes straight, and it performed weird maneuvers back and forth. And from before that point, all I got was these, solar technique UFOs where they would shoot by real fast, or they would just sit there for a few minutes and then take off. But this one, actually, I got some video of it, and I was really excited. Like you said, I was like, oh my gosh. And I called my stepdad out. I was like, hey, check this out. And he couldn't see it, but I got it on video, and then I showed everybody how this thing would, it would dart to the left and then dart to the right and then back in the middle and sit there above this tree. And it wasn't that high. I mean, it was amazing what I got. And so after that video, I shot this thing, the second one, which was what I nicknamed the double dome, because it had two domes on the top, and it looked like a bar separating them with like three balls of light underneath it, or three ball-shaped things underneath it. And when I got that on video, it zoomed past the camera real fast, and then I got the tape, because I was like, what the heck was that? So I go inside my house, and I got the tape put in the camera, hooked it up to the TV, and I freeze framed it. And that's when I saw the two domes and the bar, it was like a cylinder UFO with two domes and three ball things underneath it. Mm. And that's when I got excited, because I was like, well, this looks like the same stuff that George Adamski taped in the 40s, of these, balls underneath this thing, these three, if you ever seen these old pictures, these saucer-shaped things had these three things underneath the craft, like these energy generators. And so that's what it looked like to me. And I thought, well, wow, I got one of these things, legitimate UFOs. And so I called Channel 10 News, and because they had a segment on at night called the 10 Files, every Sunday night after the X-Files on Channel 10, they had a segment called the 10 Files, where they would talk about some unexplained thing. And so I called them up and said, I think I might have a story for you, because I got this, I have this video that I got, and this is really when it all started for me, when I called them, and they came over and got the tape, and so...
I can't imagine that feeling. That'd be that'd be the day I'd be like, yes, I'm an official, UFO hunter. It doesn't matter to me. I know I am now, right?
Well, it went even crazier than that. What I'm about to tell you, it snowballed amazingly, because what happened that same night was Sunday night when that went on the air. But what happened was the local MUFON people, they called me because they wanted to see the video, and I told them, well, I just gave them a copy. Yeah, I told them I just gave a copy to Channel 10, and I said, if you want to see the video, you'll have to come over to my house, and I'll make you a copy of it. And so the MUFON people came over, and this was still the same day that News had just left with the tape, and then they come over, and they wanted to see it first before I make them a copy, so I showed them the freeze frame of the thing, and the UFO, and the two MUFON people were their eyes popped out of their head, and one of the guys lunged at the TV, and he was like, "That's it, that's one of them." Huh. They were blown away. And so the guy goes, "You need to call this lady." And so he gives me this lady's phone number on a piece of paper, and I look at the name, and it's Linda Moulton Howe.
Oh.
And I remember, have you ever heard of her?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, she was doing these nightly reports with Art Bell on the Art Bell Dreamland show on Sunday nights.
Love it.
So, yeah, so I called it after they left, and she answers the phone, and I was like, well, the MUFON people gave me your number because they wanted me to tell you that tonight on Channel 10, they're going to air my UFO footage of this saucer. And she says, well, I'm going to record you, tell me the story, and then tonight on Art Bell, we're going to play you talking to me about this footage. And so that very same night at the 10 Files, after the 10 Files went off the air on TV, Art Bell came on and they talked about the footage. So it was like a double whammy the same night on Art Bell Dreamland and on the Fox 10 News. And I got letters the next couple of weeks. I got like thousands of letters from all over the world, from people in like Australia and people from like Quebec and Canada and like Turkey, like all over the place. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, man. Well, that's a big show, man. I mean, that's a good one. So at the time you didn't really know how big that show was at that time, right?
No, because I had, not only did I get the national coverage and the world coverage, but I also got the local Phoenix coverage from the local news that same night. And so the next that next morning, back then they had something called the Art Bell Chat Club that was pretty big in a lot of cities. And like everybody tried to have a chat club about Art Bell, where they had groups of people show up and talk about subjects from a show. And so there was one in Phoenix, and I didn't know they had one, but they called me the next day and they said, we need to have you do a speech for the Art Bell Chat Club because we heard your interview on Dreamland with Art Bell, with Linda Moulton Howe, and we'd like you to, show us your video and tell your story and all that. So I did it. And they had me a couple times come back, but then they kind of disbanded after he went off the air. All the chat clubs kind of broke up. But then that kind of spun me off into different shows and radio shows. I did Healy Rose. Have you ever heard of the Healy Rose? The talk. It was a guy that would. Well, every now and then when Art Bell wasn't on the air, Healy Rose would take over the show as a guest host. And so he had his own show too. And so he liked my story, so I was on his show, and that was a pretty big show in like the year 2001, 2002. So I was on a bunch of big shows between 1997 and, all the way to the current day now. But a lot of them, the beginning of them, a lot of those shows were radio shows and television, like cable shows, like History Channel and stuff like that, like Sci-Fi Channel and all those different types of networks.
What about the Phoenix Lights? What was your view on that? Because I know that was huge and that was controversial. Were you around there at that time?
Well, yeah. I mean, I got footage of it. But the thing is the problem with the Phoenix Lights, to be honest with you, is there were so many things that were videotaped that day, and there were so many different times too. There's a large consensus that the 10 o'clock sighting could have been flares. It strongly leans that way. But then a lot of ufologists and UFO people believe that those were the Phoenix Lights, when a lot of people said that there was a triangular-shaped object at 8 o'clock through 8:30, which was the actual UFO. So no one is in agreement with anything about the Phoenix Lights. That's where, the problem. Like everybody can agree that something happened at 8 o'clock, between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, that there was a triangular-shaped object. People can agree on that. But at 10 o'clock, when these 7 lights showed up over South Mountain and then just kind of slowly drifted to the ground, we think there's a camp of us that thinks that's to cover up it's disinformation, because they knew that a triangle flew by, and so now they're going to muddy the waters by the military dropping flares so they can just explain the whole event away as flares. Or it was like a routine training mission, which is what they claim, of the Maryland National Guard dropping flares over the Barry Goldwater Range. Well, they asked at 10 o'clock what happened and who did that, and they first said, we don't know, and we don't, have any information on it. The Luke Air Force Base and
right. I was watching a TV show though, Jeff, and I forget the name of the show, but Kurt Russell was on there, and he said he was. Are you familiar with this? He said he was flying. Yeah. He said he was the one flying. I guess it was his own plane, like a Cessna, or his own private plane. He was actually flying the plane, and he was the one. Him and I think it was his son, that saw these lights, and he's the one that reported it first. But I don't know how true that is.
Yeah. He reported the 10 o'clock sightings, which was the flares. So that's the thing, is the event had already happened. So the triangle was first spotted in Paulden, Arizona, and then it kind of moved up through Phoenix, and then some of the later reports seen it in Tucson. So it traveled like 150 miles, 200 miles within like an hour, and it traveled pretty slowly. But then at 10 o'clock, these 7 lights showed up over South Mountain, which is like right in the middle of town, basically on the edge of town where the airport is and everything, where everybody can see it. And they didn't go anywhere. They just sat there for like 10 minutes, or probably less, like 7 or 6 minutes. And then they slowly descended. They totally behaved like flares, and the military said they were flares. And it didn't look like anything that people described earlier that night, which was the triangle object. So they tried to cover it up with that, or it was just a coincidence that happened at an hour or so after this mass sighting. But the thing is that they've denied it to be flares, and then later they said, we learned that the Maryland National Guard flew over our state and dropped flares over the Goldwater Range. So they don't even know that another military entity is dropping flares over the bombing range of Phoenix. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, So there's some sort of cover-up
some kind of
somewhere.
Cover-up, yeah. They were trying to cover it up, but it didn't seem like it worked very well.
Yeah, and it's not logical what they're trying to tell us either. So there's some weirdness to it, but, coming from that, at that time frame in 1997 when that happened, I was working with a website at the time, learning how to become a web builder, and I was learning how I was actually working on a UFO site. One of the researchers in the field, I was working on with them on a news page that I was doing at the time, and from that news page, after I left that entity, I made my own UFOs or Phoenix website entity to kind of document all this footage that I've been getting, because I decided that I couldn't really, be part of a project that, was in the UFO field if it wasn't showing what I was doing in the UFO field. I wanted to be able to show people what I'm doing, not just work on a magazine site,
What about night vision, man? Have you gotten into that at all? I'm going to tell you, I really want some night vision, but I can't afford it. I'm not, I hate to say that. It's kind of embarrassing to say that on the air, but I can't afford night vision technology right now.
Yeah, that's the problem that I have with it too. Is I can't afford it. It's too expensive. I mean, if anybody that has money or has that stuff, if they want to donate it to us, we're happy to get it. I mean, with my website, I have a P.O. box that's on there, and like I said before, if anybody wants to help you or me out, also if they have it already and they're not using it or they don't want it, send it to us. If they want to help us out.
Yeah, send us some night vision goggles.
Yeah, we'll get some good UFOs with it and put it on the show, for sure, or on the site.
But everybody talks about, you get night vision and all of the things that you'll see in night vision. Well, I tend to think, a lot of that has to be just natural stuff, though, right? I mean, it has to be.
Well, the thing of it is when you, you'll see the stars and you can see satellites, and then all of a sudden you'll see something, shoot by that doesn't, you can tell the difference between like a meteor or whatever. I'm sure that there's ways, But we had a conference out here a few years back, and there was these people that had this technology, this night vision technology, and it was hooked up to a camera, and they had it way zoomed out into outer space.
Wow!
And they were you could see UFOs up there. I mean, it was
just undeniable UFO. I mean, it was undeniable.
Yeah, after sitting there for like 45 minutes, like nothing happened, and then all of a sudden we all saw something on there that was totally something, So, and that's the whole thing. There's something out there orbiting our planet. There's UFOs out there that have probably bases out there, like on the moon and Mars. And I know this sounds crazy, but if you have people on Earth that are, videotaping and witnessing flying saucers and UFOs, same thing. It's going to be coming from somewhere, and a lot of people see them coming up from under the water, so they have to have a base somewhere, so they probably are based outside of our planet, somewhere close, because to come from wherever they come from, they probably get here, and then they build something nearby so they don't have to travel far.
Right.
For whatever purposes they're using.
Apparently, Eric said you're talking about Ed Grimsley. As far as the night vision scope that you were talking about earlier, where they were shooting way up in the sky.
Well, this was a guy and a lady and a guy, and they had their own. The name of their company was something like Skywatching or Skywatchers or something. They were at the International UFO Convention about 5 years ago, and they were the Skywatcher. It was a Skywatcher night featuring these people that could do this.
Gotcha.
And they had their own, and I don't know I can't remember their name. It could have been who he's saying it is, but
sure.
it was a guy and a lady, and they had this equipment.
Okay. Well, we got to take our first break, Jeff. I want to get into some conspiracy stuff and a little bit more, about you school us a little bit on how to do some UFO hunting. But we're going to take our first break of the night, guys. We'll be right back with Jeff Willis from UFOsoverPhoenix.com. Don't go anywhere.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Lorian Fenton here, SOR listeners. Join me at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th, where 14 presenters discuss all things disclosure, UFOs, and aliens. Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address disclosure. Preston Dennett will present Inside UFOs. Your Dave Scott and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien contact. Get tickets at caufocon.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together we own the night.
The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. This is Spaced Out Saturdays with host Joe Roop. You can follow Joe on Twitter at Lighting the Void. And if you want to call into tonight's show, dial 501-777-5631. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, from the deep south of Arkansas, here is Spaced Out Saturday host Joe Roop.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Saturday tonight, folks. Thanks for joining us. Also want to thank everyone over at WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, the UPRN Network 107.7 in New Orleans, everyone on Spreaker, everybody over on the Fringe FM. I love you guys too. In tradition, though, you know, I haven't done this before, but I knew to do this. We are with Jeff Willis from UFOs over Phoenix. And before we get to that, I'm going to attempt to do this, okay? So Bill Cartwell has set the password for the SOR Space Travelers Club, and that password is Anichotillomania. Anichotillomania. I have no idea what that means, but remember, guys, keep that password, use that password wisely. Keep it safe and close. I don't know. I wish someone would give me a definition of what these things mean, but you don't want to go down that road. Go right ahead. Thank you, Bill Cardwell. That's an awesome password. And Jeff Willis is back with us from UFOs Over Phoenix. Thanks for sticking it out with us, man. It's fun talking about this stuff. I really enjoy talking about UFOs, and especially when it's like, this feels to me, I mean, I hope I'm not insulting you when I say this, but it doesn't feel like it's the mainstream type thing. You know, it feels like this is the really type of underground UFO footage that I think should be more popular than what we're actually seeing. You know, like this Tom DeLonge stuff. I'm not impressed with it. The stuff you do,
yeah,
or Rich does, or Tim Doyle, I'm impressed with that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, with our footage, you can tell it's the real deal. It's something up there, and we're like getting it on video. With the footage that they're giving us, we don't know where it's coming from. Because they're claiming this and that, and then we have to take that at face value, and a lot of people are discrediting it now. So it's hard to really know the truth. But with us, that's the whole thing with me. Is when I videotape my videos, I put them on my site, and that's why I got the other UFO website, the UFOfootage.net site, because I thought, well, anything that people send me, like through my P.O. box, people send me videos of footage to analyze or to put on the other website. And so I put all their stuff on that website because I know that my website is going to have my footage on it, and I know I can speak for myself that stuff is real, but with the other website, if someone sends you something, you don't really know, if you can use your best judgment and say, hey, this looks really good. And at that point, if it passes all your tests and you think it's legitimate, you can put it up, but you still don't know, so that's why I use that other site for everybody else's stuff I put up. But it's all about getting to the truth. So you have to take all the videos that you can find and any bit of evidence out there that can present the case that hey, here's another piece of good video.
What? So, and with the plethora of videos that you have on your website, how many what percentage do you actually consider this is like, you could consider real UFO, like something maybe from another planet?
Well, what I did was like all the videos that I posted are like, those are the videos out of like hundreds of other videos that never made it. So that's how you got to kind of look at it. Like, a matter of fact, when, the YouTube platform started becoming like the way people were going to watch a lot of videos, if you notice, like, back when YouTube came out, a lot of like Real Player and Windows Media Player, like downloads and stuff kind of don't really happen as much. So what I did is a lot of people like that YouTube embedded video thing. So what I did was I also have another website, which is UFOsoverPhoenix.net. And with that website, I attached a lot of my, I have like a slideshow on that page with videos that are all YouTube videos. So when you click them, they go to the video that that the slideshow, you go on through it, and if you see something you want to see, you click it, and then it's all done by YouTube. So I want to tell everybody out there, I want, everybody to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can get to it that way, or you can get to it through my main website, UFOs Over Phoenix. But you'll see like a link that says go to my YouTube channel. And so if you want to see great videos, every now and then I put up, when I get them, I put them up as soon as I can. So definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is UFOs Over Phoenix, of course. And there's a filter on YouTube where you can when you do the search, you can search, use the filter on there to search by channel. And if you put in UFOs Over Phoenix and search by the channel, I'll come up number one. So that's an easy way to find me that way.
I imagine this can be like hunting. When I was a kid, and still to this day, I'll still go hunting with my dad, here in Arkansas. And for hours, we would sit in the woods for hours and hours and hours. And like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. You start questioning, why am I doing this? I mean, this is nuts. Is it like that? Do you have to spend hours at a time or all day, all night?
Yeah, you never know. That's the whole thing. You go out there, and sometimes it'll show up right away, and then sometimes you won't see anything at all. You'll look for like 3 hours and won't see anything. And then there's other times you'll watch for like an hour, and then you'll see something. And then, yeah, it's always different. It's like fishing too. Like that's a good. What you were talking about. It reminded me of fishing. Because sometimes you catch a bunch and sometimes you don't catch anything.
Well,
concept.
It's the one that gets you. That when you finally get one, you keep going. How many times have you seen fleets? That is what I'm really amazed at when I see these fleets. It doesn't seem like it happens too often, but when it does, man, it's amazing, and you can't really explain it because when you see one thing, you can say, well, okay, that could be a balloon, that could be some natural anomaly or something. But when you see fleets, then it's, you put into question, okay, what is that? That really looks like, something from a different world.
Yeah, that's the thing. I got a couple of them, a couple of fleets over the years on my YouTube. There's a couple of them on there. And at first, I looked at other people's videos and, at first I thought, well, it depends on how good the video is, because if it's far away and you can't tell what it is, it could be balloons or birds or something. But if it's closer and you can tell that it's not balloons or birds, then you can tell it's something different. And the fleet that I got, which is amazing because it fits into the category of the phenomenal ones that actually do things that prove that they weren't balloons or birds, is on my one. You could see one of the objects multiply another object, like it duplicated, like it, itself, And a lot of UFO videos do that. You'll see like a solid object, and then it'll kind of morph into two objects, or you'll see two objects and they'll morph into one object. So that's it's the properties of these UFOs is they can multiply, split, and And you can only imagine with advanced technology, then that makes sense, because like what happens if they need to separate from the craft because there's some sort of problem, so you use the other part of the craft to separate and take off,
I know this is going to sound like a dumb question, okay? But I got to know, after all the hours that you've done, are you a believer or are you a knower? Do you know or do you just believe?
I can't say I know, because no one can say that, because really if you're taken on board a spaceship and you're shown everything and you think you know, then that whole thing could have been deception to begin with. It could have been a government duping you. Because if you wake up at 3 a.m. being dragged out of your house by what looks like creatures that look like extraterrestrials, could just be the government dressed up like aliens. If they take you into a saucer out in your backyard and take off and you're abducted, it could be a government type of secret vehicle, type of a craft. I mean, there's ways to fake it. Like if the government wants you to believe you're abducted by aliens, but you're really being experimented on by the government, they can make you believe that it was aliens. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but if the government's got the technology to do to have similar types of UFO types crafts, they would probably, they might take advantage of it, that same way.
Sure. I see your point. I do see your point.
So you don't, but you can, but if the chances are that if you are being visited by aliens and how many abduction stories are out there? A lot of them, right? So how many of them do we want to believe that those people are telling the truth, and how many of those do we want to believe they are really talking to actual extraterrestrial UFO ETs? And I don't know what that number is, to be honest with you, but I do know that people like us, like Rich and me, that skywatching, we get a lot of UFO video, that maybe that's the answer, is maybe these things are, there are a lot of them, and that means that maybe a lot of these stories are true, because there's a lot of these things flying around out there. There may be a lot of abductee stories. I mean, even me myself, growing up as a kid, I have stories where I think it could be a possibility that it could have happened.
Right.
And the reason why I want to say knower is because, like you said, knower or believer, I know the things that I saw, and I know that the experiences that I had, I know that those are real. But what caused them? That's the whole problem. Because I have a lot of the typical, when I was doing the abduction research into ufology back in the early 90s, I discovered, like a lot of people that talked about UFO abductions, a lot of their stories matched some of the experiences that I had when I was younger. And the typical missing time that was talked about in books like Bud Hopkins' Missing Time, how he talked about how a lot of people, like, they have a few different things, they have a few different places in their life, like maybe 1 or 2 times or 3 times in their life, where they can look back and for some reason something doesn't match up. Like, we took a long road trip and for some reason we ended up at home 3 hours later than we should have, and we can't understand it. Or I was watching TV. The next thing I know, it's a completely different TV show on TV, and it's like 3 hours later, in like a split second.
The only time I've ever had a missing time event was when I was younger, and I took a Xanax bar. That's the only time I've ever had one.
All right. Well, back in the 90s, Bud Hopkins, the famous UFO abduction researcher, wrote a book called Missing Time, and it was convincing a lot of people that, hey, if you have a short little gap of time, it could have been an alien abduction. Now, that's probably not the case unless you remember, like, some sort of event happening, like a alien, typical gray alien.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Betty and Barney Hill case, where the same thing happened. Is Barney was having trouble sleeping, so they hypnotized him, or he went to the hypnotherapist to find out what the problem was, and that whole event rolled out from that experience that they had on the road trip where they saw a flying saucer, and then it turns out that they were abducted by the craft. So, and it was erased from their memory. They had no memory of it until the hypnotist brought it out. So there's stories like this, where they somehow can, and hey, if you're an alien race, that's probably why they came up with that. That's probably a good idea, because they're going to erase it from your memory, because it would bring trauma to you. Like, if you woke up the next morning and remembered everything that they did, and remembered it in vivid detail, like it was just, you talking to your friend, face to face, you might cause major trauma and problems. So they erase it completely, but it slowly comes back. They can't erase it forever or for good. So little tiny bits and parts of it leak out over time to the point where so much is leaking out, and you're starting to recall certain things where now you're starting to think, well, something could have happened. And then you dive more into it with like a hypnotherapist or whatever, and they bring out the entire case and you like understand it. And then that you were visited. But see, that's the thing, and we don't know. It's a personal experience that a lot of people have, and only so many people have come public out with it. And there's there's even a smaller amount of big cases that are like widely known. So
I was thinking, there's even people that they can call upon. They say they can call upon alien craft. There's other people, I won't mention any names because I don't know, I've never been there, but they say that they can, I guess you invoke the aliens to come and they'll give you your money back if nothing happens and stuff like that. Have you ever went out to one of those events and filmed?
Yeah, I have. That was one of the first investigations I had back in about 1998. About 1998, 1999 time frame. I was working with a website that I had a news page on, and me and that researcher, we drove all the way out to Las Vegas to meet a guy named Prophet Yahweh. Have you ever heard of that guy?
No, but that's an interesting name.
Well, Prophet Yahweh in 1998 had his own TV show on in Las Vegas on just the local channel, PBS channel or whatever, where you can buy time and have your own show. Well, apparently they needed to fill some spots because this guy was able to buy his own show on Sundays for a half hour and show his UFO video where he would call in, he would summons the UFO. And, in broad daylight, this guy would be in his backyard and he would stand there and all of a sudden like a white dot would show up in the sky, and he would videotape it. And he called himself Prophet Yahweh, and he said he summons the UFOs. And they gave him power to summons them, and he called himself Prophet Yahweh because he believed the UFOs were the angels of Yahweh from the Bible and all this stuff like that. So, so we went out there, and he called out some stuff, and there was one out of like the three things he called, like the four things that he claims he called out. I would say three of them were identifiable, but there was one of them that we couldn't identify. And so, like, one of them turned out to be a bird way, way up there. One of them turned out to be like a balloon. And I think another one was like some type of debris, like a bag or something. And then one of them was way up there, and it looked like how you can see Venus in the daytime.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't that. It was like in the wrong place, and it would just sit there for a while. Then it disappeared after about like 15 minutes. But we left there, and then we went the next day back over there again, and we got a couple things that were probably just balloons or something like that. But yeah, it's one of those things where you just don't know. And we looked at some of his we had tapes of his footage, and and we went through all his footage, and he did have a couple good ones, but most of his stuff was pretty much just sky debris, which we tape a lot of, like balloons, trash bags, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm finding out people have invested $2 million into the stars only to find out that one of those videos was a helium balloon. That's a lot. That's pretty devastating. But I will say this, that fast mover, I don't know if you've seen that one, but the fast mover video was pretty impressive. I'm not saying it's real, but it did look pretty impressive. That thing that was moving over the top of the water really quick.
Yeah, I saw that too. And see, that's the thing. If you want to invest in like people like Skywatchers that are getting the footage. I mean, these people that are, these big academies and stuff like that, I'm not trying to talk down about them, and I'm not trying to derail them or anything, because we wouldn't be able to do that anyways. But my whole point of it is these people already have money. Why would they need our money? We're just little people,
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
I mean, that one guy was a big rock star at one time. So it's like, what's the point,
Well, yeah, I think, I can see your point about that. I just, I've seen maybe one UFO in my lifetime. The second one I thought I saw was actually a flare, and actually it was Rich. I called Rich and told him about it, and he said that's a satellite. It flared off of the moon's reflection. That happens all the time. And I kind of got discouraged, but I want so bad to move out to the West. But I'm trying to figure that. If it was me, if I had my ultimate dream, I'd just get like an Airstream and a Jeep and drive out to the desert and stay out there and maybe do radio from there and watch UFOs all night,
Right. And that's the thing. That's when you're into the subject and you get into it, it's kind of like you're bit by the UFO bug, is what we like to call it, because it's like you said, you just want to, know the answer, so you just keep at it.
So what is the most, in your opinion, the most fascinating piece of footage that you've gotten out of all of it? I know you've probably gotten a few.
Well, yeah, there's a couple. I think the most fascinating footage that, in my eyes, though, is this one piece of video I got in 2006, and the video is called 4/20/2006 because it was that's the month, day, and year. And that piece of video is amazing because it starts out as two separate balls of light, and then all of a sudden one light disappears, and then that one light that's left all of a sudden explodes into all these different types of lights whirling around it. And so it was amazing to me. And then all of a sudden it just completely disappears. So the whole video lasts probably like 4 minutes or something like that. It's amazing. And there's a couple other ones that were used on a lot of TV shows that they like, because they're pretty much eye candy videos, where one of them is like a crystal clear broad daylight saucer that I taped. And it, you know, a lot of people, you know, some people debunked it as like just a balloon or whatever, but to be honest with you, when I videotaped it and saw it, I never thought it was a balloon, because, and I still don't think it's a balloon, and this is why, because I can see it coming towards the house from like about a mile away, and I didn't have my camera, so I run inside as fast as I could and grab my camera, and then when I got my camera, I came out, and I seen it coming like right over the top. It was like almost to my house by the time I got the camera on, and then I zoomed right into it, and I had my eye through the eyepiece, and it looked like to me a structured metallic vehicle that was like flying on its side, because the bottom part, the flat part of the craft, was like up on its side as it was flying vertically over my house. And so at that moment, I pressed the record button, and I was able to get it as it come over the house, and then all of a sudden, the reason why I don't think it was a balloon, not only because of what I can see with my own eyes, it was also because of the size of it. Looked bigger, like the size of maybe a car or something. But then what really convinced me is it like did like a weird U-turn move, like it went backwards. Like once it got over to my house, it went like the other direction and shot like went east. It started going faster, like it picked up speed going east to like get away from me. And so at that point, I got it and I lost it on the camera, because it, you know, did that radical move. And then I was able to finally get it back in the viewfinder, and at that point it was only just a little small white dot again. But I had it like in full view over the house and all of its glory. All of the TV shows love that, because it looks like a stereotypical flying saucer image of a disc-shaped craft. And so it went on the Dan Aykroyd DVD, Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs. And David Streeter used it in his documentary From Here to Andromedon, and it was also on, that clip was also on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, and also that clip was, I think that was it on that clip, but, you know, there's some other footage that I shot of what people call the Phoenix Lights that I shot, but it wasn't the event. It wasn't the March 13th event. This was way later. This was the Phoenix Lights that I shot in 2005. That's why I always think it's funny in UFOs and ufology when everybody says, oh, the Phoenix Lights, like it's a one event, like it's a one-time thing that everybody saw.
Yeah, well, I kind of get that too.
That might be true in some sense, but the problem that they don't know is most UFO hunters or most UFO skywatchers know that the Phoenix Lights happens every night in Phoenix if you are lucky, if you get lucky. But but it's something that happens a lot. It occurs at a lot of times. So I got lots of video that I can call the Phoenix Lights. You know, they're shot at different times, different years. But this one clip that I got that a lot of the shows love to use too was taped in 2005, and that was on the Art Bell show, and that was also the Fact or Faked clip that they tried to duplicate, which they failed, and it was also on the X-Testers TV show, which featured this guy named Patrick Denver, which is the actual son of Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. So I met this guy that was the son of Gilligan, and he did a show called the X-Testers for Discovery Channel, and they tried to duplicate my footage, and it didn't work. So I bet
that made you feel good, didn't it?
Yeah, two different shows tried to duplicate it, and they both couldn't do it right. So, yeah, I felt good. I was like, yeah, maybe it is something,
Well, You know, there's this crowd that amazes me in this field. I'm all for the truth. I really am, Jeff. I'm a seeker myself. And you hear that term a lot, a seeker, right? But I'm one of those guys that want to know. I don't just want to believe. But there's this other crowd of, and it's great to be a skeptic, but there's this crowd of professional skeptics that I can't imagine why they spend their whole life trying to be a skeptic or a debunker. It's like all they do. It's what they focus on. And they got magazines and stuff. I'm like, what kind of person? And I mean, I may be wrong here, but it just seems like a waste of energy to me.
Well, it's probably funded by the people that don't want the truth to come out. So what they do is they target people that, people that have experiences, and then they try to debunk them, and to try to tell the rest of the public, the people that have never heard of the story, or the people that, to discredit them. That way, when those people do hear about those people, they're like, oh, I heard about those people, and they're phony, So they try to get the word out to everybody. Hey, if you hear about this guy, it's not real, So that way they don't get any credibility, and it even erodes the UFO movement of the people that believe in that story. It starts to get out that that maybe that story's not true. And maybe some other people will drop off of it and not believe it, So it's just a total disinformation campaign. Like, it could be funded by the government or who knows who. But it's like you're saying, it's like all it really does is it destroys the movement, really. But you can never. I mean, it only draws down the logical, the book side of it or the news side of it, anything that comes out in the media side of it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like they got like Skeptic Magazine, they got people that do radio shows, and just, it reminds me of when I went to school about that person that just goes around and is trying to debunk everybody all the time or one up everybody. I caught you, or you're wrong, and it's funny to me because sometimes they'll go on and on and on and they'll never prove their point. And it's like, really, why wouldn't you? I mean, I get it to be a skeptic. Everybody needs to be a skeptic, but to be a professional one, it's something that I really don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it either, because the thing is they always will lose, because the truth will always prevail. And anytime you got an unknown object in the sky and people are videotaping it, you can't debunk that. And the more things that you throw at it, that it could be this or it could be that or whatever, when all those things are proven that it couldn't be those things, then it still boils down that it's unknown. They still lose. So at that point, it's like you said, what's the point? They're still going to lose because the truth's going to come out that it's real,
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. But then again, every now and then they help out. Well, I think we need those kind of people. I'm not saying we don't need them, but it's just I don't see the mentality of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it keeps us honest in what the footage is, the real stuff. When if a video comes out, right away a bunch of people are going to think it's fake right off the bat, even if it's real. And then after the test of time, after everybody gets it, and the professionals look at it, and then the professionals come out and say, yeah, this video is real, and this is why it's real, then all the skeptics kind of go away after that. But until that's proven, they're going to be loud and noisy, and they're not going to believe it, because, number one, if someone doesn't believe in it, the subject, like, remember that guy Phylth class?
Professional debunker. That was a spook for sure.
Yeah, the famous debunker. Now, people like that are probably paid from the government just to go out there and just debunk anything. No matter how credible it is, they're just going to debunk it just to get the word out there, to try to convince people, if they've ever heard of this case, it's fake, or if you haven't heard of it, it's fake. Basically, like I said before, they're trying to muddy the waters.
I think a lot of another thing I think it is too is if you're the guy or girl that's out there that actually proved somebody wrong, that's getting a lot of attention, then you become the man or the person, See, I prove these people wrong. I am the ultimate conveyor of truth, so you should listen to me, And it's a tactic that's very sleazy, if you ask me.
Yeah, and a lot of them could just be trying to get attention or trying to get fame or something like that, so it's hard to know the motives behind it. But, we just stick to I just stick to the video of it, and I know I've had some experiences like I was saying before. That's why I say I'm a knower in a way, because I know what I experienced was real. Like there was a couple times at night where I woke up where I saw something or something was left behind that I know that it came from somewhere else. So that's, just...
Preacher's got a good point in the Spreaker chat too. He's like, hey, and then you got other people that just fake everything. And it's so obvious, but they're selling millions of copies of whatever, comic books, DVDs, movies. And this is why I like talking to people like you and Rich and Tim Doyle, if he'll ever talk to me, is because this to me is real research. It's the epitome of it. You guys have got great footage, and I think that these things should be at the front of all these conferences and stuff. That's just my opinion.
It should, but that's another thing that's bizarre about the UFO community, or I would say the so-called UFO community. The top, brass of the UFO community, so to speak, are generally people that don't want to accept the obvious footage, like me and Rich's, because we're just sky watchers, and we're kind of put in an area of ufology that should be like front and center, but instead they push it to the back because they want to put the well-known authors and the best New York Times bestsellers and all those people on the stage to pitch their book and their theory and their armchair research. They don't want to benefit from firsthand experience for some reason. I never understood that about UFOs, about the UFO community, so to speak.
Armchair research. That's a good way of describing it.
It is, because it's like these people want to talk about UFOs and write about them and make books about them, but they never went out there and videotaped it themselves, so it's kind of weird to me. But those are the same people that will, a lot of those same UFO researchers, those type of people will try to debunk Skywatcher's footage and say, oh, those are just balloons or whatever, and it's like, wow, that's crazy, because we're not going to put out, like you said, there's some people that do put out junk footage, but if they have any credibility at all, if they want to keep credibility, they should only put out the best stuff, stuff that's not going to get debunked.
What about the I heard you discussing this before. What about the moon landings and these conspiracies that go on and on and on? I think we did go to the moon. In my opinion, I think we did. Okay. But then I also think that they filmed this other thing. And this is kind of what John DeSouza says, that they filmed this other thing just in case we screwed it up. And they showed us some of that film. But that's just my opinion on it. Yeah. But I've only done, quote, armchair research on that, because obviously I can't go to the moon or visit a NASA center.
Well, I got to say, I always believed that we went to the moon, but then, how many times have we gone to the moon? Have we claimed publicly that we've gone to the moon? Because, like you said, there's that other footage that doesn't look credible. And so maybe we did go to the moon, but maybe a couple times we didn't, and we faked it. So, or maybe the first couple times we faked it, and then maybe the third time we really went. Or I'm not really sure. But it's like you said, all these years later, like 50 years later, you look at the videos, and we've come so far with technology and video and everything. We look at this film, and we're like, this seems kind of hokey. It's almost like these UFO videos from the past that they look now, after they didn't stand the test of time, because now it looks fake,
Yeah, and like Dan Lopez says in the Spreaker chat, the Van Allen belt stuff, there's so much controversy over that doesn't make sense. We've beat that, but it just don't make sense.
Well, what's funny is they point blank asked the astronauts that went to the moon, they said, how did you feel when you went through the Van Allen belt? And one of them, I don't know if it was Buzz Aldrin or the other one, I can't remember, but one of them said, I didn't know we went through it. And they said, well, what do you mean? He said, I thought it was a lot further out.
What do you mean
so
they didn't know it?
Yeah, one of them was claiming he thought the Van Allen belt was even further past the moon. He was not even aware that they'd went through it. So it was kind of like a disregarded question right off the bat.
Well, I did watch a film where it seemed like they saw something and they tried to cover it up, or, you know, that's why I think they went to the moon, because you could hear one of them say, he's like, whoa, you know, what was that? Did you guys see that? And no one, they kind of blew it off like it was nothing, but they're seeing UFOs up there on the moon.
Yeah, there was some video even that they shot and some pictures that they took where you can see like objects in the background.
I'm in love with the moon. I don't know. There's a word for it. Someone put it on Facebook the other night, but and I had to get Bill Cardwell to look this up for me, but somebody that just gets intoxicated by moonlight, that's me. But I think that these whole bases on the moon, I used to think, man, that is such a crock. I used to think, Jeff, this is crazy stuff, right? You know, some of the John Lear things I've heard, just insane, way out there. But every now and then we got to be reminded that all we know is what we know, right? All we know is what our five senses are showing us. Just like a fish in a bowl doesn't know about the trees outside, and then doesn't know what the highways are, and he damn sure doesn't know what space is. All that fish knows is what's in that bowl, you know?
Yeah, that's how I thought too. When, you know, in 1993, I got this video from Richard Hoagland that it was a presentation on bases on the moon and bases on Mars. And, you know, since I was into UFOs, you know, I wanted to check it out and see what it was all about. And, you know, regardless of what you believe about Richard Hoagland and his theories and all that, he was showing a lot of pictures and stuff like that where you look like, you know, they had captured some stuff on the moon. Like they could, you know, and of course there's a dark side of the moon. We never see it, so we don't know what's on that side, right? You know?
They got somebody put out a map of it the other night, but my whole point is like you're bringing up Hoagland, right? Back in the day, he would go on Art Bell show and talk about water on Mars. And you, how many people called into that show and said, you know, Hoagland's a crock, Hoagland doesn't know anything, blah, 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 this is crazy. And just a few months ago, they're saying, hey, guess what, guys? There's water on Mars. We're finding this whole water on Mars. Nobody's bringing it up.
And that's what I loved about Richard, is because on his videos he goes into all these map equations and shows how this straight line, it turns at this angle and all this. And so he's like putting lines over these areas that, you know, could be alien bases on the moon, and the math is looking right, you know. So it's almost like this guy, like, he knows, it's like you said, he's ahead of the curve because he figures stuff out and he puts it out there. And remember that NASA, you know, he was a scientist for NASA. They listened to him, so obviously he knows what he's talking about. But the reason why they got rid of him is because he was probably into all these theories, you know? Exactly, yeah.
Have you ever had anybody try to silence you? Maybe a weird phone call, somebody followed you around, somebody stole your tape. I mean, I'm thinking of all this footage, somebody had to have tried to shut you up.
Well, I have had some experiences where I talked to Rich about this, and I'm sure that Rich has had some of these experiences too, because I brought this up on a show one time about TIs. Have you ever heard of the targeted individual?
Yes.
TI? Okay. Well, this has been happening since probably, like, I want to say, like, definitely since the UFO thing picked up. So I'd say since 1997 for sure. But I want to say way even back when I was like 7 years old, I had some strange experiences. One time, I remember when I was 7 or 8 years old, I was being chased through the woods by a double-bladed huge army copter. You know those Chinook? Yeah, you know those Chinook double-bladed huge helicopters? Yeah, one of those was chasing me through the woods in Seattle when I was growing up, and it was near my home. I was in the woods, and there was this clearing where, you know, there was no trees, where you can see a big portion of the sky. Well, this huge helicopter come out of nowhere down towards me, hovered over the top of me, and just sat there. And the door opened, and it was like huge, and the wind was blowing the trees, and the door opened, and you could see a guy with like a black uniform and like a black, like, it looked like, you know, one of those, like, you know, pilot masks on, or gas mask, or, you know, oxygen mask, or whatever. And I started running, you know, into the woods down a trail to try to get away because it was freaking me out. You know, I didn't, you know, like, you're only like 8 years old, and all of a sudden this huge helicopter come out of nowhere and it's hovering over you. So I started running, and it started following me, like right at treetop level, like slowly going, you know, wherever I went, it was over the top of me. And it chased me. It was like, it seemed like forever. It was like at least like, it seemed like 10 minutes. I was trying to get away from it and hide. And you know, it didn't need to, you know, how like the regular one-bladed helicopters, like the police copters and all that stuff, you know how they would like circle around if they were like searching for somebody, they would like go in a circle and search for someone. This thing was a huge Army helicopter, and it didn't do that. It just hovered wherever I was. It would hover over the top of the trees where I was down there at. And so somehow they could see me, and I couldn't get away from it. And finally, I ran through this trail where it came out into this playground area where our apartments were, and I ran out through that trail and across the grass towards the apartment, and this thing came right over the apartment complex, and it hovered over the building until I got to the door where the building was, where you go inside the building, and like tons of people started coming out of the apartment wondering what's going on. And there must have been like 30 or 40 people come out of their apartment and look up at this thing hovering over the building, and then it just left after like a couple seconds. It just took off.
And you think that was a direct response of something that you did, or you just happened to be there?
Well, what I tried to piece it to is the UFO encounters that I had. I had seen a UFO, and not, you know, shortly around that same period of time, and I also had those experiences where I had in my bedroom where I thought I, you know, had seen, you know, something, and so I was trying to piece it together with that, like it was a harassment technique, because a lot of ufologists and a lot of people that are into the subject say that they've been stalked by like men in black limousines, black helicopters, stuff like that, and I related it to that type of event where, you know, there were stories, a lot of them, where someone reports a UFO and they're visited by the men in black, or they're, you know, get a phone call and say, hey, don't talk about that, or whatever, you know. So I related it to that, something like that, you know.
Right. That's cool.
But it was weird. Later on, like when I lived in Phoenix out here, though, I had an experience where I looked out the window and I seen like a guy in the driveway, like in a suit and tie, like their official like Men in Black type of look with the hat, you know, they looked weird. And so I went out downstairs and opened the door to go out to see, you know, who that was. And when I got out of the gate area where I can look in the driveway where that person was, I went out and there's no one there at all.
Whoa.
So I took that as a Men in Black experience too. But none of those experiences did they ever straight up tell me, you know, don't talk about UFOs or just totally get out of UFOs. You know, no one ever told me to just get out of it.
Well, it's kind of scary because you don't know what's going on with HARP and all this other stuff too as well. I talked to Rich about one time, we were having a discussion about targeted individuals and energy weapons, and it seems like, man, it's just an out there conversation. Well, every time I feel like I'm talking about an out there conversation, weeks or months will come down the road and there'll be proof of it on the web, like energy weapons, right? You hear about this stuff all the time. Energy weapons.
Oh, that's what I was going to get at, too.
This thing that I found out that I'm going to tell you about, I found online, I think it was on the Drudge Report, the military released was an audio energy weapon that would put out 132 dBs of volume, and not with a speaker, but it would put it into a fixed point in space. Like it could triangulate just a 3D point in space and blast that little point with audio. And not only that, it could make voices come through it. And this had nothing to do with audio. It was all lasers and energy and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I think that we've been targeted with. And I've had these experiences where these helicopters come over my house all the time. And also I've seen online where they have an energy weapon that it showed where they attach it to a helicopter or an airplane, and when they go over your house, they beam it down. And you know, that's how the government could target, like, different people that, you know, talking about subjects that they don't want to talk about. They don't want them talking about it. And sure, you know, you talk about these billions and billions of dollars that they don't know what happened to it for, like, you know, this or that. You know, this could be one of the reasons, because they're targeting people. And also, microwave weapons and V2K technology, voice to skull. These are technologies where they can beam a voice into your head and make you think you're hearing voices and going crazy, or, you know, and really it's them trying to make you think you're going crazy, because they're trying to do that to make you get out of the, you know, get out of the subject. If you had to worry about voices in your head and all this other stuff, you're probably not going to deal with UFOs anymore. You're going to start dealing with yourself, you know, trying to figure out what's going on. So if they can get you out of the subject by, like, affecting your health, like beaming microwave weapons or V2K or whatever they do, you know, the targeted individual thing, like gang stalking too, where they honk, they drive by your house 100 times a day and honk the horn, and you can never go outside and fast enough to see who it is or whatever, you know, and they just lean on it, or they, you know, do it at like 6 in the morning, you know, 100 times, you know, 100 cars. That's what they call, like, gang stalking. Or you drive to work and people will be following you, like 10 people. Like, people will box you in and they'll, you know, it's obvious, you know. So these type of things happen to a lot of us type of researchers, and we can't prove it, but it's out there on the internet, and it's, you know, it's happening to so many people that it's starting to come out, and people are starting to prove it. That's the whole thing.
Why not just kill someone? Well, they've done that too. We've got several missing person stuff. I mean, we've got plenty of events where people have, he just crashed his car by accident, right? That reporter?
Right.
No.
It probably does happen, but I don't think they really want to kill people. I think they like to torture them. They like to have more fun by, you know, doing this other stuff, because they're getting the money to do it. So why, you know, end it, you know, that quickly, you know? Besides that, if they're ever caught in that type of a scenario, then a lot of people can go down it. You know, if the trail ever gets back to them, that somebody died because of that, and then the trail gets back through all these channels, then a bunch of people can go down. So I think they more, you know, the more than likely, the most of the time, it's harassment, and it's also high tech harassment, and it harasses you by your health too. So we have to take cautions and measures, whether it's happening or not. We kind of got to take precaution anyways.
I had a friend of mine call me, a very mentally healthy friend of mine once called me on the phone and told me that I was talking to her in her head, and that her family members started calling me and asking me questions about her, and, you know, they put her in a hospital and she was fine, totally fine. But at that point, we were talking about a lot of different subjects, and there's no, like, I guess, mental stuff in her family or anything. They didn't find anything wrong with her. She'd been evaluated several times. But the stuff that she was telling me that was going on in her head was crazy. I don't want to get too personal about it, but it did kind of freak me out, you know.
Well, what could happen is like, because, like, you're in the community, then, you know, then if you had a surveillance, like, or whatever, and, you know, if the government was, you know, you were under surveillance, they know who your friends are and who your personal relationships are. So what they do is they go into those people's heads and they put information on them to, you know, to make them, you know, think about stuff that you, like, you're doing it or something like that. What their whole purpose is try to cause chaos with your family or you and everything. They want to like completely take you down.
Discredit you, yeah.
Yeah. So if they put thoughts in other people's heads that say that you're bombarding them with like psychic, like you're getting into their head, then they're going to retaliate on you, and so it's going to cause problems with you. So you're not going to concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing. You're going to be concentrating on your personal life, and you're not going to be, in the subject too much, doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it's another way of getting you out of it,
It's a little obvious, too, if they take you out, like the witness type thing. That makes it kind of obvious. But if you go crazy, well, I mean, that's on you. You just went crazy. Yeah. You got some type of psychological disorder.
Right, and that's easier for them because that's the other thing is like, anybody that's having a UFO abduction experience or a UFO sighting or whatever, if they don't get it on video anyways, and they don't have any proof of what they're talking about, then no one's going to believe it anyways. And if they do believe it, then it must be a good case, and it must have other reasons for a lot of people to believe it. And if that's the case, then you're going to get the attention of the government. And it's like you said, they're never going to come right face-to-face to you anymore. They're going to attack you because they have the ability to do it from miles away. They don't even need to be anywhere near you to do it, So
it's all good points. I think we all want to believe that we know every tactic that the CIA does. We don't know what the CIA's doing. We haven't got a clue. Yeah, we don't know anything what they're doing.
That's another thing. The CIA, FBI, military intelligence, and any type of government type of secret agency has technology probably 10 or 20 years more advanced than modern day scientists in public. The public knowledge of scientists is not as advanced as what the secret scientists have out there. The equipment and the advances that they have. They don't know how advanced they are. So they're using stuff that we don't have no clue of.
Right on. Well, we're going to take our last break. We're going into the third hour here, guys. This is a pretty interesting conversation. I'll probably open up the phones too if you want to call in. And we'll be right back after these words.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are. And what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hello, SOR listeners. Lori and Fenton here. Let me ask you, now that disclosure's happened, what does it mean for ufology? For answers, join us at UFOCon 2018 in South San Francisco, California, March 23rd through 25th. Keynote speakers Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, and Melinda Leslie address the current disclosure agenda. Dave Scott, yes, you're Dave Scott, and Lynn Buchanan tell of amazing alien encounters. Get your tickets at caufocon.com. That's caufocon.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lori and Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on SpacedOutRadio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Want more information about our programming? Check out spacedoutradio.com. You can follow our host, Joe Rube, on Twitter at Lighting the Void. Call in to tonight's show at 501-777-5631. Now, entering the radio ring from Arkansas, Spaced Out Saturday host, Joe Roop.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Saturday. Thank you, Bob. I am your host, Joe Roop. We're here live on Spaced Out Radio, Spreaker, the Fringe FM, WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. Also on the UPRN network, 107.7 in New Orleans. The Spreaker chat is on fire tonight. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's listening on the Fringe FM. That's my home over there. I love each and every one of you. If you're listening on TuneIn, iTunes Radio, wherever you're listening from, thanks for joining us. We're in our third hour here with Jeff Willis from UFOsoverphoenix.com. It's been a great conversation. I want to tell you guys real quick before we move further on into the conversation, the words that I was looking for, I want to see if you guys are, I'm probably guilty of all these. A few words here. Nyctophile. A nyctophile is a person who loves the night and darkness. I am guilty of that. Pluviophile, a person who takes comfort in the rain. Not guilty. Selenophile, a person who loves the moon. Super guilty. And this one is either Serranophile or Coronophile, a person who loves lightning and thunder. So I'm guilty of all of those except one. And I think I would say, I'm trying to relate to the audience here, most of us are guilty of that. What about you, Jeff? Of most of these are guilty of these things. The darkness for sure and the moon for sure with me.
Yeah, I'm guilty of a couple of those. I like the rain one because it's like I was telling you off the air there that like I was raised in Seattle, and for some reason, you know, with it raining there a lot, I guess I just got used to it.
I was trying to give Trippin in the chat room a birthday shout out because everybody's like, happy birthday. And I'm like, is it your birthday? You know, and I kept asking him, and I just can't get it out. Now, if I missed your birthday, brother, I'm sorry. So happy late birthday. I don't want to miss anybody's birthday in the chat room. And you just had one too, didn't you?
Yeah, I just had a birthday March 4th. Yeah.
Obsessed with the sky. Yeah. The moon, I'm obsessed with the moon heavily. So the thing I wanted to talk to you about is if I want to be a UFO hunter, say I really want to do this. The first thing I need to do is go grab one of these high 8 cameras and just go out to an open area and start filming, or what would you tell me to do?
Well, the high 8 cameras are only good if you have the night shot mode, and with that camera, like I only use it at night. For the daytime, you want to go with like something modern, like an HD camera, and try to get a high optical power on it, like maybe a 60 or 70 optical HD camera if you can find one. They're hard to find, but I have a HD that's like I think it's a 65 optical HD camera. But I also have that's a Sony. I also have a Panasonic, which is like a regular hard drive camera, but it's a 70 power optical. And it fits the 5X lens, the 50 power lens, so that's a really good power. But the old school camera I only use for at night because it's got the night mode. But during the daytime, the other cameras are better because they're just better because the pixels are, there's more pixels, and like the HD cameras, 1080. So that's great for the daytime. But those older cameras are good for nighttime.
Well, that's cool. I just would think that, a digital camera, that would be the best way to go. But according to you guys and Rich as well, that a digital is not that great because it tends to have, I guess, little digital objects, things that kind of little glitches here and there that could be mistaken for a UFO, or it doesn't capture the... I guess it just doesn't capture everything.
Well, what's great about it is it's got like a line that shows you once you get to this optical power, the highest optical power, then you can turn it off so it won't go past that. Because a lot of cameras, if you keep zooming, it'll go past the optical power and into the digital range, and that's when you get artifacts and pixelation and all that other stuff. So what you want to do is stay in the optical range when you're taping, and that way you're not going to get any of that. And the reason why I like the newer cameras for the day stuff is because, like, ever since I started videotaping UFOs, I've always gotten more daylight footage than I have nighttime footage. So with, the higher, with the cameras with better capabilities nowadays, it makes people like me that videotape more daylight UFOs than nighttime UFOs, it makes, it's a lot better nowadays because you're getting more clearer images for the daylight footage.
Right. This birthday thing's got everybody all messed up, man. I'm going to tell you something. Facebook is going through hell right now. I've seen people that got humongous followers on Facebook talking about shutting down their page. I don't even see, and I'm bringing this up, Jeff, real quick, because we were talking about it at break. I don't even see the regular stuff on my Facebook feed anymore. It's like they're feeding me junk from people that I don't know.
Well, Yeah, what I think they're doing is they're filtering all sorts of stuff out, because it's weird, because back in like a couple of years ago, like I was saying, like about 3 years ago, on my birthday, I would get like thousands of birthday wishes and everything. But now, over the last 2 years, I've only gotten like a couple, because I think they've filtered out to my all my friends. They filtered that it was my birthday. Like they only let a few people know, like a couple people. So I think they're censoring more stuff. And another thing is I've got almost 5,000 friends, and they're all pretty much UFO community people and UFO community friends. But what's odd is when I post a UFO video, or I post that I'm going to be on a show, only like 2 or 3 people like it. And I'm like, how can that be possible out of 5,000
friends? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and this is supposed, and they're all UFO friends, and this is a UFO-related post. So how can this be possible? And the reason why it's possible is because Facebook isn't letting our posts, they're not letting anybody see them, is why.
They have some kind of, and I looked into this myself, they have some kind of rating system they do for your posts. So certain things that you put in your posts are considered bad. Like, say, if you leave links, if I put like http:// whatever into my post, and then that downgrades my link. But if I put just an image and a description and I tag a certain person, it upgrades. It's really dumb, but they do it.
Yeah.
They do it for some kind of weird advertising reason. And we're in a whole different time now where, you know, you look at the owner of Facebook, who's giving out all our information without consent, controlling all our content, including videos like yours. And, you know, he's going to get away with it. He's considered a hero, one of the greatest people in the USA, right? Big guy, capital guy. He's living the American dream. And then you got guys like Assange, who's trying to tell us all the stuff that they're doing, but he's the criminal, you know.
Right.
It's backwards.
Yeah, and I think that's right, because I think you're right. They changed some of their algorithms and stuff, so that when people post stuff, if it's something they don't like, then no one's going to see it except for you and the people that go to your page, you know.
And Amazon's kind of taken over. They've gotten almost $1 billion in government contracts with the cloud stuff. He's the guy that runs Amazon is on a panel in the Pentagon. They put him on a panel in there, and he gets $1.67 of our tax money for everything he ships. One of the only companies in the world that we pay Amazon to ship stuff to us. So they make money every time they ship a product.
Wow.
So if you wonder why your content's not getting noticed, there's probably some really bad criminal reasons for that, you know?
Right, and that's the thing. None of my videos have ever been on Amazon or anything, and it's because they charge you to have that barcode. They charge you several $1,000s to have that, and it's not feasible. So they price you out of everything. So like when you buy one of my DVDs from my website, you're getting like a handcrafted, you know, video that looks just like it come from a store, but it's all done, you know, by our website, you know, and produced and packaged and everything. So you're like basically buying an underground footage, you know, underground UFO video, and that's what makes it better, you know, because it isn't the you know, packaged, you know, polished, you know, production that you know, like a, you know, film studio would do. You're looking at the raw material, real stuff, you know.
$6 billion, Eric Markham says, $6 billion contract Bezos has with the CIA, the owner of Amazon.
Wow.
There's just something really creepy about that, man.
That's crazy, because it's like the Facebook thing we were talking about. Like, you know, if you just, people say, hey, well, if you don't like it, just delete your Facebook account. Well, yeah, that's all well and good. But the problem is with that is that you're on Facebook, so you can stay connected with your friends that you knew like 20, 30 years ago, and also to generate a network of new friends and followers for your business of what you're doing now. So you're kind of like they got you in a corner, because if you delete it, then if you delete your account and you go away from Facebook, then there's a lot of people that are never going to know who you are or what you're doing. So,
what about these new social media networks? I want to know your opinion on this. They've got these new social media networks that use a blockchain. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So blockchain's basically like cryptocurrency, and you sign up to these networks. You have to be signed up. And some of them are focused, like target focused to paranormal and ufology and spirituality. And you sign up to these networks and you put your content up. And if they comment, if you upvote it, or if you publish content, then you get rewarded cryptocurrency. And you have a rating. So if your rating gets higher, the more you get rewarded for doing the stuff that you do. And it seems like a pretty good idea. And they're saying, okay, we're not going to censor anybody. It's not going to be advertiser based. It's all going to be just cryptocurrency, blockchain stuff type based. And I think it sounds like a good idea. But then what if our entire internet turns into that? And you put up a video of a UFO, and let's say that you're a cryptocurrency trader, or let's say we live in the future and everything's cryptocurrency. Okay. Well, now we're in an episode of Black Mirror where everybody's got to like you and give you 5 stars in order for you to get a plane ticket. It just, I can see the slippery slope there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about those type of networks, but I know that one copies the other. Like before there was a Facebook, like in 1998 when I first got my computer, when people were first starting to get on the internet, in 1997, 1998, I got a computer, and the first social network that I discovered was ICQ. Have you ever heard of them, or do you remember them? ICQ?
Wasn't that like a chat room? ICQ?
Yeah, it was like you got your own ICQ page, what was basically like your own Facebook page, and people could leave chat comments, or they can chat you directly, and you would have a little chat pop up, and you can talk into the ICQ chat room or window. You download the software and have the chat. And so basically, when Facebook came out, I thought, well, wow, they totally stole ICQ's idea from back, 15 years ago. I thought, this is exactly ICQ with a different name. You get your page, you get your chat, the same everything, So they just stole someone else's idea and made it more savvy and made it more, fashionable, and everybody flocked to it,
Well, I think...
And it wasn't even his idea. MySpace was out before that even, so they could have copied it from that too, so...
Yeah, the change is the only constant that I see, that happens on the internet. I mean, well, come on. I mean, we didn't think Facebook was going to last forever. It kind of felt like it was going to, that it was going to last forever and ever. But eventually, like you say, and you made a good point earlier, that the truth always comes to light eventually, and 50 million accounts that got turned upside down because we're not given consent for the information. And all he's going to say is, I'm sorry. Do you want to put your UFO videos on Facebook now? I mean, you got 5,000 friends. Nobody's seeing them.
What I do is I just put the YouTube links on there every now and then. But the thing is like you said, no one's seeing them now. So I use Facebook just to contact old friends and to post any new information. But it's almost like you said, like we're just doing it for nothing. Just to have Facebook is basically just to make sure that you can talk to people, now. So.
Yeah, I was sent a message about the night vision goggles, by the way. Someone sent me a message, and people are still calling me when they know I'm on the air. If you're trying to call the show, the number's 501-777-5631. I'll call my cell phone. But, yeah, so I think this was like $385 or something for a pair of goggles. I'm kind of embarrassing to say, but that's still a little expensive for me. $150 is all I can spend on something that I can afford extra.
And we were talking about that before, and I mean, like you said, it'd be nice to be able to spend $400 on night vision, but I don't really have $400 to spend on a luxury right now, So that's why we were saying too, hey, if someone wants, someone wants to donate some, if they have a few pairs and they just don't need them, maybe one or two or whatever, but, because there's a lot of people that collect stuff like that. You'd be amazed. Like, there's people that have like 5 pairs of night vision, and all this other stuff. But, thing of it is, like you said, it's expensive, and if you need new tires on your car, you're probably going to buy that before you buy the goggles,
Yeah, no doubt about it. Or gas. I'm telling you guys, radio doesn't pay. It really doesn't. I'm sure being a UFO hunter, it should pay, but it probably doesn't pay that much as it should.
It doesn't, and that's why we always say, if we have any products or whatever, buy one or donate $1, or go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, because YouTube, and you don't make any money with YouTube, but if enough people watch your videos, you might, eventually down the road they may send you a check, for a certain amount of hits, but we're all linked up with AdSense and all that stuff. So eventually we'll see a check if enough people go on there and look at enough stuff. Eventually down the road, like 6 or 7 months down the road, we might get a check for like $100 if hundreds of thousands of people watch our YouTube videos. And so that's one way, but with that $100, it goes to pay the hosting for the website. So it's a good thing, but I mean, it just takes a lot of effort to keep it going. And if no one does anything, then basically you're just doing all this for free because you love it, because you videotape the UFO and you love the subject and you love the mystery, and you want to know and get to the bottom of what it is, and you've got a good video, so you're going to put it out there anyways, So that's where you get kind of stuck with the, like I was saying, you get bit with the UFO bug. You want to share it with people that have never heard of it, or like you were telling me, you've only been into UFOs for 2 years. Well,
yeah, a little over 2 years now. That's it.
Yeah, like I've been into UFOs for like 40 years or something like that. So it's kind of one of those things, even longer than that, because, I wanted to know the answers before I even knew what it was, So, my whole life, basically. So there's people that know information, that have it, that need to get it out there, and we're always going to be getting it out there, whether we have to pay for hosting or whatever. It's just something that we're going to do. But it always is nicer when people like acknowledge with your effort in it, and they help, which is, which shows that people are interested in what you do individually in the subject, which is something that Facebook doesn't let you do anymore. They used to be all about that, but now it's like you said, it's like they shied away from that. So
there's a reason why, though, that I've only been in it for 2 years, because like I was telling you, I was studying spirituality and occult science and ancient history, and I was always kind of into the ancient aliens type thing. But the UFO stuff, I was like, that no one's ever really going to know what those things are flying in the air and blah, 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 right? I had my own ideas, my own perceptions and paradigm about it until I met Travis Walton. And when I met Travis Walton, not only did he see UFOs, but he had an experience, the extent that they went to try to disprove the guy, and they just couldn't, or his friends. That really lit a spark underneath me. And I can tell you the only research I've done, is armchair research, basically, because I'm behind the mic most of the time here, either producing or doing a show. But I still am finding out some interesting stuff. Like every day, something right. I'm finding new about it.
Yeah, and that's one of the best cases on the UFO abduction thing. Like the other one was the Calvin Parker, the Pascagoula case in like 1976, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. But this was where 2 fishermen were abducted by a UFO, and people that were driving on a nearby bridge actually seen the light come down from the sky, hover over the lake where the 2 fishermen were there. And they didn't, people actually sighted the object. At the same time, these fishermen claimed that they were abducted onto the craft. And, that's a strong case. The Betty and Barney Hill case is strong. There's like those 3 cases are I would say, the top abduction cases out there. And there's even more. I mean, there's police officers that see, of course, the New Mexico case where the police officer saw the landing UFO. So there's a lot of good cases that it's real, and and that's the whole thing that's fascinating. If there's beings from other planets or other dimensions or other realities that can come here and visit us, and they're more technologically advanced, then that asks a lot of questions like, where are they from, who are they, why are they here, and we don't know any of those answers. So at least, they're not, there might be certain people in high up levels that might know these answers, but they're not coming and telling anybody. So it's a mystery still.
I've got a thing about this now that I'm so hooked on it, man. I mean, it takes up all my time. I was telling Dan Lopez, I've got a stack of texts about spirituality and ancient history and stuff, and I haven't touched them because now I'm all into this now, and I think it all runs together. And this was a question I was going to ask you earlier, but I forgot. But I'm glad I brought it up now. How many things have you caught on footage? Good grief, my Facebook thing. I can turn this dadgum Facebook thing to do not disturb, turn my volume all the way down, and it still just goes beep, beep. I'm about to throw it outside. Sorry. Anyways, I've got I done lost my train of thought. Oh, I was going to ask you, have you ever caught anything on film that seemed to come in and out of, like, reality, I could say? Maybe it seemed to move through dimensions, or it would appear and disappear.
Yeah, I have got that, and that one 15-minute sighting was like that because it seemed to fade in and out, like it would be solid, and then it would like turn invisible for a few seconds, and then it would come back. And so, there was a lot of research that I done in UFOs that lead me to research that other researchers have done, where they talk about the same thing you're talking about, where the spirituality of it and the interdimensional aspect of it and the physical craft aspect of it all run into one mega phenomenon, as well as a lot of like Rich was talking about, like psychics the other night, and I wanted to bring up a point to him about like psychics because he doesn't believe in them, but I wanted to ask him. Yeah, but what I was going to ask him is, I saw this show one time where it talked about how the police work with psychics sometimes to try to solve unsolved cases. And there was this one psychic lady that worked with the police, and she has a track record of working with the police, and she actually uncovered a bunch of information psychically that actually led to the arrest and conviction of a killer.
Do you know, was it, what's her name? I think I've talked to her before. Do you know her name?
I can't remember, but it was the show. Well, basically, they had a cold case, so they took it to the psychic, and
Nancy Dutirtre. Was it Nancy Dutirtre?
I couldn't be sure, but I remember she felt the clothing from the murder scene or whatever, and she knew exactly she knew a name and all this, so who did it, and a location of where they took her and all that. So they went to the location, they found more evidence, and it actually led to an arrest of the person, the first name that she said, and it was impossible for her to ever know any of this stuff. And so it came pretty close, it's pretty much ironclad that that's a guaranteed psychic for you. So there's maybe, like Rich said, maybe one or two of them out there that are real that can really do it. But right. I would be on Rich's side and say 99.9% of them are probably phonies.
Well, the reason why I think Rich says that is because if you put them, it's one thing to talk to a psychic on the phone and they tell you all this general info and stuff, but if you put them in a controlled environment, they can't do much, right? Well,
that's why
I would challenge Rich to look at the Edgar Casey files, where many skeptics went down there to tell him to stop doing what he was doing, and then came back and wrote articles and essays about him because he would just blow their minds, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. If you want to be convinced, I would only look at the ones that actually law enforcement work with, because they have a proven track record of solving cases, you know. So those are the only ones that I would really look at as being legitimate, as ones that actually law enforcement work with, you know. So there's one for you, you know.
I like Kevin's comment here in the Spreaker chat. He says, dimensions. They just turn the lights off and on. That's it. That's pretty funny. But I don't know. I've seen some stuff on film that don't look like lights just turning on or off, you know.
Well, if UFOs are coming in and out of our reality, there's a chance that it might not just be a linear thing. It could be that they're popping in from a different dimension, because you know what string theory is all about and parallel worlds. You know, they're all scientific, you know, mathematics that prove that this stuff is possible. So, you know, it's like Einstein talked about this stuff, and half the scientists, you know, didn't even have a clue of what he was saying, but, you know, he was smart enough to know that we could be, you know, there could be interdimensional, you know, these things could be interdimensional. And hey, if they're time travelers, then they you know, they could be popping in through some, you know, future portal. You know, we don't know, you know.
Yeah, we like to, that's a good point. I'll always bring that up. We like to think we know. You know, I've been alive on this earth for 36 years. Yes, I'm young, but I can tell you that I don't even know 1/1,000,000th of what reality is. And there's a lot of boastful people out there that talk as if they know everything, but it is fun to speculate about some of this stuff, but we don't have proof about a lot of it either. But that's the fun.
Yeah, and if we don't know what a
UFO
UFO is, then we don't know what it is. I mean, it could be coming from like a different reality, a parallel world, or interdimensional, or the future, or the past, or a different, you know, dimension, like a wormhole or something. We don't know, you know.
What's your opinion on the inner Earth thing, Jeff?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of evidence of it, and you know, if the world, you know, how old is it really? I mean, how much time does that leave people from other, you know, I mean, you got to look at it like this. How many ice ages has our planet gone through? Like, what is it, like 6 or 7 ice ages?
Couldn't tell you. I don't know my history on that. No, well, I know that's impossible. The Earth is only 8,000 years old.
Well, if you look at ice ages, well, if you search ice ages, you'll see that every ice age lasts probably like 3,000 or 4,000 years, and we've had like 7 or 8 of them. So that means that every time there was an ice age, it wiped out the entire planet for like, you know, for 3,000 or 4,000 years until it thawed. So a civilization that's advanced, that had an ice age hit them, if they were an advanced civilization and they knew that the ice age was going to eventually take over the surface of the planet, the only obvious explanation is to move underground. Now, if these cities, underground advanced cities, you know, flourished for, you know, 4,000 years until the ice age stopped, then what you have is a inner Earth extraterrestrial race that has high technology that can probably, you know, pop out of the ocean in a flying saucer and, you know, you know, to see, you know, what's going on up here, you know, and hey, all the ice melted, and now there's new people up here that are not as advanced as us because they just, you know, they've just been around a few hundred years, you know, and we had to hide under here, you know, like 6,000 years ago, you know, and we were already advanced when we, you know, knew that we had to, you know, build our city underground to outlive it, you know. So, you know, this could have happened like 6 or 7 times, you know, over like a period of like 10 or, you know, like, you know, 50,000 years.
What interests me, though, is... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like you said, a lot of people believe, oh, the Earth's only 8,000 years. Well, hey, if you know, if that was true, and it could still work out the same way. We could have had a civilization that was, you know, like 7,000 years ago, a civilization that was highly advanced, because in the Bible, like the oldest book of the Bible was probably written like 4,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, and they were talking about chariots of fire and people visiting them from up in the sky and all this stuff. So it obviously shows even back then that they were being visited.
How much of this do you think that's kind of pompous for us to think we're going to figure out with our brains? You know, like what can we really figure out? We're not going to, I think I can figure out everything. I'm going to try it or I'm going to die trying, you know, but.
My theory on that was, like we were talking before, like if an alien landed on the White House lawn and got out and then shared all of its knowledge of the universe with us, then we would probably start to grasp, we would know a lot more, obviously, but we would actually find out all the stuff that we really don't know. We would actually learn how stupid we really are, you know, and that's not and that's saying it in a bad way. It's saying that we're just not as intelligent, because obviously if they have craft that can fly to, from, one side of the galaxy to the other side of the galaxy in a matter of a couple seconds, because they're using a mode of transportation that's not a linear, mode.
Sure.
So obviously they're more advanced than us, so they're going to know a little bit more about stuff than we are, because they've probably been around for 6 or 7 million more years than us, So.
Well, it's people like you with this kind of thought that the reason why I enjoy it so much. People like the chatters and the Spreaker chat, and people that are listening on the network, that I enjoy these minds so much, because these are the same kind of people that invented the things that if we went back, let's just say even 80 years, okay, 80 years, and we said, hey, guys, guess what? You're going to be able to talk to, well, let's say 100 years. You're going to be able to talk to somebody that's not even here. Not only that, you're going to be able to see their face. You're going to be able to put all your information somewhere in this thing called the cloud or whatever. They would laugh you out of there and hang you up and string you up and call you a witch or whatever. And all of these things that we thought, flying cars, artificial intelligence, stuff that we could only go back 100 years and talk about, they would say was witchcraft or impossible, or the skeptics would laugh us out of the building because they were so smart about everything. It came to be. And even yet now this day, we talk about things that sound wild, but it doesn't mean they're not possible, and it doesn't mean that it's not coming to be,
Right, and it will eventually, because like we were saying, that once we meet an alien race that knows all the, a lot of the mysteries of the world, and they're able to tell us, then we're going to make a huge jump in technology right there. And also, like you said, in like sci-fi movies, like Blade Runner back in like 1982 or 83 when that came out, they showed stuff like face-to-face phone chat, like video chat.
Right. Yeah.
And they were saying it was 2019, in the future, 2019, and here we are, 2018, and we're using video chat just like that movie predicted. And it's the same thing. And they also had other. They weren't the only movie or sci-fi. To actually predict face-to-face video chat. We had Star Trek in the 60s, and where they video chatted on the ship. And so the idea was out there, but eventually here it is. We can video chat each other now. And it's something in the past that they would laugh at and say, that's never going to happen. But eventually, the people that said that were just too stupid to realize that technology is going to advance to the point where this stuff will be possible.
The mind of a UFO hunter, Jeff Willis. I had to get the perfect picture for the flyer. What drives this guy? What picture would be the perfect picture for Jeff Willis? And I found your picture with an old school camera looking up at the sky, and I said, that's it. And I traced it out and put it on the flyer, man.
Right on, that's it. And it's movies like that, like Blade Runner from like 82 or 83 when that came out, where I watched that movie and I saw that. Flying cars, biologically engineered human beings. I mean, this is something that's different than what they were talking about before about cloning people. Forget about cloning people. We're talking about bioengineering. We're talking about coming up with a biological material and turning it into a human being. Forget about cloning. We're talking about biotech. So, I mean, this was a totally different concept altogether. You know, they went beyond cloning and they were like, well, forget about that. We're just going to create a human being out of genetic material. So, hey, this was something being put out there that, you know, that it was way far out. And now look at the biotech world and bioengineering. They generated a human ear on the back of a rat like 15 years ago that they were going to reattach onto a human being so they would have an ear. I mean, that's what they were doing with bioengineering back like 15, 20 years ago. Think about where they are out now and where they're going with it. Like down the road, they could be doing making replicants, which is what they called the human beings that were genetically engineered in that movie.
It's a beautiful balance, I think, because like I was saying earlier, the skeptics they play their part, but you have researchers like the recent and God rest his soul, John Anthony West, who challenged the narrative and saying, hey, look, Egypt is probably a lot older. At least these structures are a lot older than what, we say they are. What race was this? And it was because minds like that we're just willing to think outside the box noticed that, hey, this is water erosion, not wind erosion. And I'll be talking to Laird Scranton and Robert Schock Tuesday and Wednesday night, and I can't wait to talk to them about that kind of stuff on Lighting the Void. I think that we're going to get more answers a lot faster. I'm hoping our answers are going to come as fast as technology is increasing. And I think, and I know this is going to sound crazy, Jeff, but if you go back to from let's say the roaring 20s up to right now, when all of the inventions started happening and technology started compounding on it so fast, I think we had some help. I think something helped us.
Yeah. Yeah, and it could be some of these trash retrievals that, in ufology that they talk about, like Roswell and other crashes where the military was able to get some material and then they leaked it into different industries, and the industries were able to make something of the technology, and the transistor and all these other things just came to light, fiber optics, all these different technologies come out of it, and then sure enough, we're able to do satellite radio and computers, cell phones, all the stuff. Like, who could have imagined that they would go from horse and buggy to space shuttle in under 100 years? Like, how is that possible?
It's got to be help. If the Earth is even 8,000 years old, which it's not, but if it was, it would still only make sense if something helped us along. I mean, I guess we could have, I don't know, I guess we could have done it ourselves, but I don't think so.
But we couldn't have, because the past shows that, because from the very beginning of the dawn of civilization all the way to 1900, we were on a horse and buggy. And then only for the last 80 years we were able to have technology. Something's wrong with that picture. Like, like, why didn't it happen 5,000 years ago or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Like, why were we so stupid for so long? Like, I don't understand that. We had to have had it.
Well, the phone I have now is 10 times more, I would say almost 20 times more powerful than the computer I had in 1998, which cost $2,500 to get. My phone is way more powerful than that computer. I remember I've saved to get a computer because I wanted to play MechWarrior, and it cost me $2,500 to get a computer that I wouldn't even be able to use it right now.
Right, and because that shows you how advanced we've gotten from that point. I mean, it's at such a speed that it seems like microchips and all that stuff, it seems like it would have, there's no way that, like, we could have went thousands and thousands and thousands of years and never advanced anything other than the horse and buggy. And then just from the 1910 to now, which is, little over 100 years, to have these advancements in only 100 years. Like, in the last 100 years, why wouldn't we have these advances before that? And how long has man been on the planet? Like, very, very long. So, that's a long time to be doing nothing.
Right. There's only one or two questions that trouble people, or people think about a lot. I think I've got a critter. A studio, actually. Anyways, there's only, and that's the beauty of living out in the country. I don't know how I got in here, but there's only one or two questions that trouble people. Mine is, who are we? Why am I here? And is there life after death? I guess that's kind of three, but those are the things that I think about. And as many times as I've seen UFO footage, had astral travel experiences, I always have doubt. There's a doubt there, always. There's something in my head that tells me, no, all of this is crazy. This is it. This life, this is all there is, and there's no answers. I wonder what that is, Or let me ask you this. What questions are in you? What do you question the most about all this?
Well, I always want to know, are we going to ever know the answers to this stuff? Is my question. Really, is what I want to know. That's why I do this. That's what kind of drives me to do this, to try to finally figure out the answers. And I know I probably will never figure it out because, ufologists and UFO researchers have studied this, phenomenon their whole lives, and nothing, ever comes out of it. We never know the answers. So we probably won't in our lifetime or in anybody's lifetime. Maybe that's part of the directive of the UFO aliens, is that they're not allowed to land on the White House lawn. They're not allowed to openly have contact, publicly. Maybe that's why they do everything behind closed doors and through these little grassroots efforts by abducting people or having these UFO sightings. So there's a movement that knows that they're real, and then it's slowly, we have to slowly leak it out to everybody to get everybody to know that they're out there. So they're going through the grassroots effort, So if they want us to know they're real, that's how they're doing it. So it's like we're saying, I don't know if the answers will ever happen as far as,
well, it doesn't help
and all that.
It doesn't help that we get screened, that the government does what they do. I mean, before this whole Tom DeLonge thing happened, and To the Stars Academy, everybody was coming down on the guy, right? Saying, "Oh, this is going to be a crock or whatever." I mean, in the back of my mind, though, I wanted it to be something, even though I kind of knew that it was. I really wanted it to be something. But then what it turned out to me to be was that the truth is going to ultimately prevail. And the mob, when I say the mob, that's us, the UFO community, the paranormal community, has been pushing this so much due to the internet and all the research that the government had to push us back somehow. Okay, so let's get this rock and roll guy and a few of our ex-intelligence people, and let's tell them, okay, yeah, it's a little real, and maybe they'll leave us alone and just focus on this guy. That's what I thought it was,
Yeah, but see, the thing is, and that's great that they did that, but the thing is, there's been so many cases and so much other video that came before that point that we already knew it was real. The only problem is that the government never wants to talk about it. They always say, "Oh, we haven't investigated UFOs since we closed Project Blue Book back in 1972 or whatever." Their answer, their whatever in 1969, whatever their comment is on it. They always say, "Oh, we don't investigate UFOs since this time frame," and so they always try to back out of the subject of it. So why would they leak this information now? What's weird is because they never had to. They could have just kept on saying, "Oh, we don't know nothing,"
I guess I can see your point, but I think they're trying to push back the mob a little bit. And I'm not saying we're a mob, but we are kind of. If you look at it, let's say, look at it from a Roman point of view, you got the Senate, and they're always trying to keep the mob happy or whatever, and the mob kind of rouse up and it's like, look, we've got all this evidence of UFOs and stuff, and now what are you guys going to do about it? And finally, they had to give us this thing, called To the Stars or whatever, so we can just divert our attention. And I think it worked for a little bit, but people are starting to see what it really is,
Yeah, and that's true, and it's good that, there's another entity out there trying to get to the bottom of the truth and all that, and do it through the government channels and all that, which is good. But if the information was already there, like through the Freedom of Information Act, and people that worked really hard to get files, like John Greenwald Jr. from the blackvault.com. Like people like him are more of a benefit to the secrecy of UFOs than this other guy, because this other guy is just trying to, take your money and peddle out whatever is, there, So it's there anyways. We just have to fight to get it, really, is how it works.
Well, that's why they didn't pick you. That's why they didn't go, well, I'm going to go to Jeff Willis or Tim Doyle or Rich Giordano, and I'm going to get a team around him, because nobody, in all fairness, as far as the pop culture spotlight goes, nobody knows who you guys are, but everybody knows who Tom DeLonge is. So he's perfect.
That's the thing. Those people that are celebrities, see how they use the celebrity influence to gain momentum and more money on that. That's exactly what you're saying, So, yeah.
So what's next for you? What's your next project? Are you just going to keep on just putting out videos, or do you got anything coming up?
Yeah, right now I'm just trying to do the Skywatch thing and try to get the best videos on tape that I can. But I'm always open for any type of projects. It's weird because I used to do a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, and movies and stuff, like documentaries and stuff like that. But it kind of toned down, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's less television. Productions are doing less stuff on UFOs and ufology, or what really it is. But I haven't done any TV shows, and I haven't done any documentaries or movies in like 4 years. So I don't know what's going on out there, but I'm always open to. I'm always open to do, TV and movies, like I always did before, And it just might be just research. The researchers just don't have the money to do those type of projects anymore, but.
Well, it's been kind of taken over. They got these online channel networks, you can subscribe $10 a month to, and you get you get all the information you need, and they're telling you the narratives and stuff. And the people like you don't. It just seems underground when it shouldn't be underground. I've never seen a marketing movement in the paranormal field like I've seen how it is now. It's become a market.
It's crazy.
It's always been a market, but not like it is now. It's crazy.
Yeah, and what I was trying to do, years and years ago, is I wanted to do a TV show where people would show up, or we would go from city to city or whatever, and we would show people how to videotape a UFO, or whatever. Like we would go from state to state, and we would show up with, at the local MUFON chapter. And then, anybody who would want to show up to see UFO would show up, and then we would teach them how to actually get one on video, and actually we would get one on video in every city. Yeah, and that would be the show, and it'd be on like History Channel or whatever, Discovery Channel or whatever. And that was my idea for a show that I wanted to do, because I would turn on the show, I would turn on TV, and I'd see weird shows that weren't really credible, like Bigfoot chasers and just weird stuff like that, where there was a bunch of guys riding around in the back of a pickup truck drinking beer with shotguns and cameras looking for Bigfoot, and that just kind of didn't seem like legitimate to me. And I thought, well, we can come up with, better shows than that. I mean, like I was saying, I want to do a show where we would show people UFOs and get real UFO footage. That would be a lot better than Bigfoot chasers or something, like that,
Bigfoot
So I always wondered, like, why aren't people calling me for, to do a legitimate show on UFOs? Because you see these other shows that aren't really that great, and I know I could have a great show.
I wish I would have asked you this earlier, but Rich is telling me to ask you if you've ever seen ghosts in your house before. That's probably and I can assume you have if he's asking that.
I have seen some. I guess it would be a ghost. I've seen several things. I've seen like objects like dematerialize into nothing that weren't like a weird shape of something and disappear like an entity or something. And I've also seen like what you would call like a typical ghost, like a foggy, like white light, like a split second. I've also seen orbs, like bright orbs in my bedroom at night. Like before I go to sleep, sometimes I see like a flat, like a circular ball of light in my bedroom for a split second. I don't know what all that. I don't know what all that stuff is, and I don't know. A lot of people say ghosts are like a spirit, an afterlife of a spirit of someone that passed away or whatever, and I don't know if that's what ghosts are, but a lot of people think that some of them could be. Some of them might not be that. Some of them might be, and some of them might not. So one person that sees a ghost, it may be something different than another person that sees something that looks similar or exactly the same, and what they saw might not be a ghost. So, that's a hard question. But I have seen some stuff that could be labeled that for sure.
Why do you think that, in your opinion, that the Phoenix and the Arizona area, or I'll just say Phoenix, is a hot spot for UFO activity?
Well, we're out by Area 51, Dreamland, Nevada area, Arizona. And so there's a lot of military. I mean, I think like 60% or maybe even more of the state of Nevada is dedicated just to military faculties. And so, more than half the state is secret, fenced-off military zones. So, and we live out here in the desert right next to that area. And how many secret areas in Arizona do we not know of? So these things could be being tested out here in the desert where you have open ranges for hundreds of miles, and mountain valleys that block, military installations from the general public. And we have small towns and, towns with, not very many people in them, far away from Phoenix and surrounding desert areas. So it's a great place to test secret stuff. But would you fly that secret stuff directly over Phoenix? That's kind of the oddball question, because if it is secret and it is government and they're able to test different stuff, then why wouldn't they just do it in their own little secret area? Why would they fly it over a major metropolitan city like Phoenix where you have like 6 million people? So that's kind of like the mystery of it, because that's where we think maybe it's not military. Maybe that these UFOs are the real thing showing up, because it fits the bill. Like UFOs always show up and then, they go away, and then the military has to come up with an explanation for it. So if it was just the military the whole time, then they wouldn't need to explain it. They would just say, oh, that was us,
Well, I think part of it, too, is it's the sky. It's the desert sky is the biggest night sky I've ever seen. I've said this a million times.
Yeah.
A mountain, here, if I can see a tree that's 100 yards away, and it's 100 yards away. When I went out to the desert, I saw a mountain, and I said, hey, I'm going to walk to that mountain over there and climb up it. And that mountain was 60 miles away. I wasn't used to seeing that. So I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, out in the, out here, like you said, out in the desert, it's all flat. Everything's flat, and you can see far away. The other day, I was noticing this. I looked in my rear view mirror, and I can see a stoplight that was red, and it was exactly a mile away, and I could see a perfect red light, like a mile away, in my rear view mirror. And it was, every mile they have a light, and so I was in that area where every mile they have a light, and I was at the next light, and I looked in the rear view mirror, and I was surprised. I was like, man, I could see that red light way a mile away, and it looked like the size of my thumbnail, so I can estimate that. I can, that was like basically the size of a basketball, and I'm able to see that like a mile away because it's bright red, so that just gives you a little perspective on UFOs, because if I can estimate that red light, that stoplight a mile away, as being the size of my thumbnail, and that is actually the size of maybe a basketball, then that means that if I see a light in the sky, I can estimate it by that same way at how big it is, you know.
Well, we got to get out of here, Jeff. Tell everybody again where they can find your websites and your YouTube channel before we got like a minute.
Okay, my website is ufosoverphoenix.com, ufosoverphoenix.net, and ufofootage.net. And my YouTube channel is UFOs Over Phoenix. And I also have another website called UFOfinderslive.net, and that's the TV show idea I had with another researcher friend I had. And so I also have another YouTube channel called UFO Footage Net. But my main one is the UFOs Over Phoenix YouTube and the ufosoverphoenix.com website.
Well, thanks for coming out, Jeff. It's been a blast. We'll have to do it again, man.
Absolutely. It goes fast, and there's so much to talk about. You can never get to it all.
Right on. All right, guys, that's it. We're going to get out of here. That was Jeff Willis from ufosoverphoenix.com. Go check that out. And don't forget S4 is up next. If you're listening live, you can go there on Spreaker, on the Fringe FM. Good night to all you Selenophiles, Nyctophiles out there, lovers of the moon, lovers of the darkness. We'll see you next weekend.
Told all the lies to myself.